Chapter 557. Don't panic. Southside Azure Sword was actually very depressed, but he still had to put on a calm expression. He knew that he was the backbone of the team and had to maintain his composure. If even he panicked, the entire team would collapse in an instant. With Qianli's drunk here, we have to find Silver Moon to increase the price, Southside Azure Sword said. As Jian Nanyu said this, he tried to guide them to think from a conventional business perspective. He wanted them to treat 1,000 miles of drunkenness as a problem that required a higher price tag and not an insurmountable moat. How much? 20,000? Hualini's words revealed that he was extremely afraid of Gu Fei. There had never been a transaction that cost more than 20,000 gold in the entire parallel world. Southside Azure Sword glanced at him, then at the others. He realized that his words did not seem to dispel their fears, so he continued, "Our target isn't Qianli's drunk. Although he's here now, he'll leave sooner or later. I don't believe that he'll follow Meng Meng around 24 hours a day. So, there's no need to think about how scary he is. We just need to be patient. If he doesn't leave, we won't attack. We've experienced this many times. What's there to be afraid of? It's just that we need to avoid Qianli's drunk this time." After hearing Southside Azure's words, the others gradually calmed down. Indeed, the target of the previous mission was the 1,000 miles drunk. Both parties had to fight each other head-on, which was why they were so unlucky. But now, the 1,000 miles drunk was just an obstacle beside the mission target. Although it could be understood as an obstacle that couldn't be removed, it wasn't like they hadn't encountered similar obstacles in their career of robbing. Take White Stone City for example. Southside Azure's words party had killed a vice guild leader here. When they first found him, he was farming monsters in the leveling area. At that time, the entire leveling area was filled with their guild members. There were at least 100 of them. Southside Azure's words party was naturally powerless against them. This situation was exactly the same as now, with Qianli's drunk by his side. In the end, they just had to wait patiently until the vice guild leader left the leveling area. There weren't that many guild members around him. At this time, they were just waiting for Qianli to get drunk and leave Meng Meng's side. That would be their chance to strike. De Nan is right. Glue was the first to nod. For now, we just need to maintain this distance and keep an eye on them. It's no different from usual. Everyone, get to work. Jian Nanyu waved his hand and everyone dispersed. When it came to tracking, Jian Nanyu and the others had their own methods. They rarely used the stealth method of staying close to the body. Instead, they used a large-scale tracking method. For example, this group of people were just casually walking on the streets at the lowest speed possible. Even the slowest priest could easily overtake them if he ran. The method Jian Nanyu and the others used was to judge the other party's direction in advance. Then, they would take a detour and wait at the intersection in front of them. In this way, they would follow and monitor one by one. Moreover, they would maintain a distance so that they wouldn't arouse the target's suspicion. With a guy like Qianli drunk who knows us, everyone be careful. While Jian Nan instructed everyone, he sent a message to Silver Moon, add 1,000 to the price for the vast and boundless matter. But Silver Moon was surprised. Qianli is drunk in White Stone City, and he is right beside her. Jian Nanyu said. Impossible, said Silver Moon. That's the truth. If you don't believe me, you can come and see for yourself. Jian Nan said. Why wouldn't I believe you? Silver Moon was still very tactful. I'm just surprised that this guy was originally in Shady Forest City. 2 neighboring cities, it's not strange for him to come here. Is Qianli very familiar with the boundless Meng Meng? Jian Nan asked. I don't know. Only Silver Moon knew how he felt when he said those words. Although he was the one who ruthlessly left the vast expanse behind, when he learned that the vast expanse had chased him all the way to Cloud City, he was not touched, but rather a little proud. He thought of himself as a magnificent existence. He thought that whenever he turned around, he would see the girl stubbornly following behind him. As a result, when he elegantly turned around, what he saw was a raised middle finger. Only then did he realize that the girl had already drifted further and further away from him. What he thought of as gorgeous was only his wishful thinking. In the vast wilderness, he had new friends, including his old enemy, Qianli. At that time, Silver Moon was squatting in the knight's camp in Baishur City, counting how many people were preparing to gang rape her. Pay half of the newly added 1,000 gold coins as a deposit. Jianan Yu sent another message. Oh. Silver Moon replied blankly. Qianli was clearly in Shady Grove City when he was drunk. How did he suddenly run to Baishur City? Naturally, there was only one reason: to help. Thinking that there was such a strong person helping her in the vast expanse, Silver Moon's heart was full of depression, unwillingness, and jealousy. That Silver Moon sent a message to Yi Xiaowu. The person selling the staff changed his mind again, saying it's 4,000 gold coins. But Yi Xiaowu asked, to raise the price. What else can there be? Why don't we just give up? Silver Moon retreated in order to advance. He had already seen that Yi Xiaowu was not short of money. If he spent 3,000 gold coins to buy something, he probably wouldn't take it seriously even if he added 1,000 gold coins. It doesn't matter. 4,000 gold coins it is. Sure enough, Yi Xiaowu replied as Silver Moon expected. Silver Moon responded and ran to the mailbox to pay an additional 500 gold coins as a deposit to Jianan Yu. He didn't want Yi Xiaowu to know that it was actually such a transaction, so he paid the deposit first and then took it back from Yi Xiaowu. Even if Yi Xiaowu refused to let him handle it, he could ask Jianan Yu to accept it and then transfer it to him. Jianan Yu's credibility was still reliable. Also, Silver Moon continued to send messages to Yi Xiaowu as he hurried on his way. I received news that Qianli ran to Baishur City when he was drunk. I know, Yi Xiaowu said. Now he's alone. You see, isn't this an opportunity? Silver Moon was extremely vicious. It just so happened that Jianan Yu and his group were doing something there, so he wanted to take the opportunity to trick Yi Xiaowu into joining in and kill him with a borrowed knife. The opportunity is not ripe yet. It's difficult for us to fight Qianli head-on, even if he's alone, Yi Xiaowu said. We don't have many people, but I heard that he also had a dispute with someone over there. You see, this is equivalent to us having some more helpers, Silver Moon said. Oh, who is it? Yi Xiaowu immediately asked. I don't know the specifics. Silver Moon didn't dare to say the names of Jianan Yu and the others. He had already roughly seen Yi Xiaowu's way of doing things. He understood that if Qianli had any enemies, he would contact them and win them over. If he said Jianan Yu's name now and Yi Xiaowu went over, if the two of them really contacted each other, then the fact that he cheated money to buy equipment from Jianan Yu would be exposed. He would also violate the agreement that he couldn't sell information about Jianan Yu and the others when they were working together. Does that so? Old Duan is over there. I'll let him know first, Yi Xiaowu said. We can't miss this opportunity. Maybe they only need us to destroy Qianli's drunk. If we delay now, we'll be cut down by Qianli's drunk. At that time, even if we rope them in, our strength will be greatly weakened. If we gather a bunch of people who aren't even level 40, this. Silver Moon tried to bluff, but these words also poked at Yi Xiaowu's sore spot. In order to make peace with Gu Fei, he had spent a lot of effort to gather a few people, but they couldn't even open fire with the other party's team. They only faced Gu Fei and Sword Demon a few times, and they were already cut into pieces. Apple Vinegar wasn't even level 40, and Water-Breaking Arrow was actually spared by the other party. Silver Moon's words weren't without reason. If they gathered a bunch of people who weren't even level 40, how could they fight against the other party? Yi Xiaowu was also quite depressed about what happened in the afternoon. He and Non-Smiler took the inescapable mark scroll and secretly looked for those guys. In the end, not only did they not find the other party alone, but they also saw that they had set up an ambush. It was obvious that they had already noticed the existence of this mark skill. Yi Xiaowu had treated this mark skill as a trump card, thinking that it would be a sharp weapon from start to finish. He didn't think that after using it 2 or 3 times, the other party would already be clearly aware of it, making him deeply feel that the other party was far more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. Let's all go now and understand the situation while waiting for an opportunity to act. Isn't that better? Silver Moon continued to encourage. You're right. Yi Xiaowu finally nodded. I'm called Non-Smiler. Silver Moon hurriedly messaged Non-Smiler. Brother, Qianli in Whitestone City is drunk and alone. The opportunity for revenge is here. Alone? Just us? Non-Smiler was surprised. No, there's more. Anyway, hurry up and come, Silver Moon said. Non-Smiler didn't really trust Silver Moon, but at least he knew that this was a person who wouldn't jump into a fire pit by himself. Seeing that he was so confident, there was an 80% chance that there really was a chance. He hurriedly got busy. The three of them met. Silver Moon looked left and right, puzzled. Isn't there still apple vinegar? He's not going. Yi Xiaowu sighed. But Silver Moon asked. He likes to fight one-on-one. Yi Xiaowu said helplessly. Fuck, what day and age are we in? He's still playing one-on-one. Silver Moon was very disdainful. He liked to bully others with numbers. Teleport. Yi Xiaowu took out a teleportation scroll. Silver Moon didn't question what he said last time when he said there was only one. This person was rich and had the means. How big of a matter could a teleportation scroll be? A white light flashed, and the teleportation was completed in an instant. Silver Moon quickly changed his equipment and covered his face. He didn't forget that there were still a lot of people in Whitestone City who wanted to kill him. Is old Broken Arrow here? Silver Moon had never seen Broken Arrow before, but when he called out his name, he felt a sense of familiarity. He didn't seem like a stranger at all. I've informed him, Yi Xiaowu said. Where's Qianli drunk right now? I'll ask around, Silver Moon said. Chapter 558. Where is Boundless Mang? Silver Moon quickly sent a message to Jiananyu. But, you're here? Jiananyu asked. Yes. Right here. Hurry up and come take a look. If you see clearly that he's drunk with Qianli, hurry up and pay. Jiananyu sent a coordinate to Silver Moon. He felt very disappointed. Silver Moon actually suspected that he would blackmail him for 1,000 gold coins. He was indeed a scumbag. But that's not what I meant, Silver Moon hurriedly said. Isn't Qianli drunk here? I was afraid that you guys would find it difficult to deal with him, so I brought a few brothers over to help. Do you think I would use a teleportation scroll to come over just for 1,000 gold coins? I'm stupid. Jiananyu thought that was true. It wasn't necessary to use a teleportation scroll for 1,000 gold coins, so he asked, what do you want me to help with? To deal with Qianli drunk. Silver Moon said. Who said we're going to deal with him? Jiananyu asked. Isn't he by Boundless Mang's side? Silver Moon asked. So we'll wait until he's gone. Jiananyu replied. Frankly speaking, Jiananyu felt that it was quite degrading to hide from someone like this. However, there was nothing he could do about Qianli drunk. No matter how unwilling he was, he still had to admit defeat. Although this might make people look down on their team, it was better than bragging. When someone came to buy Qianli drunk's life, they couldn't accept the deal. That would damage their reputation even more. No way. Silver Moon was stunned. He didn't expect Jiananyu and the others to act like this. Is there a problem? Jiananyu asked. Silver Moon was speechless for a moment, but what was worse was his current situation. Yi Xiaowu and Non-Smiler had already been brought over by him, claiming that there was a chance, but in the end, no one had any intention of attacking Qianli drunk. Silver Moon's intestines turned green with regret. How could he be so impulsive? Where is Qianli drunk? Yi Xiaowu and Non-Smiler were still asking. Here. Silver Moon reported the coordinates he had just asked for. They've already started fighting? Yi Xiaowu asked. After listening to Silver Moon's analysis, he was now quite worried that these people would lose a level in the hands of Gu Fei. It was better to preserve the fire of harmony as much as possible. I don't think so. Silver Moon wiped his sweat. He didn't know how to explain to Yi Xiaowu and the others when Jiananyu and the others saw that Qianli was drunk like a dead man and didn't make a move. Then let's hurry over there. Non-Smiler, who didn't know the inside story, also egged them on at this time. Silver Moon was so angry that she cursed in her heart. Obviously, as long as there was a chance, the thought of not laughing and killing Qianli was also very urgent. The two of them ran towards the coordinates one after the other. Silver Moon had no choice but to follow behind them while planning how to explain herself when she didn't see anyone make a move. On the streets of Baishur City, Gu Fei's group of 6 had been strolling for half an hour, but they still hadn't seen the enemy. Gu Fei loved this sport, so he didn't show the slightest bit of annoyance and continued to walk patiently. However, the others weren't as calm as him. Everyone felt that it was extremely stupid to walk in a row like this. Hey, why aren't we walking? The few of them walked slower and slower. Gu Fei finally noticed and stopped to ask them. The few of them looked at each other. Fireball straightened his back. He was proud to be able to talk to Gu Fei at a time like this. Brother Zue, we're just waiting for them to show up. Why do we have to walk around like this? Isn't it the same if we wait in one place? Fireball said. Aren't we afraid that they won't find us? So we have to take the initiative, Gu Fei said. But the main city is so big. If we walk around like this, it'll be even harder to find us, right? Fireball said. You see, the situation is like this. Gu Fei patiently explained to Fireball, now that they can't find us, they're so anxious. If they're anxious, they'll have to ask around on the streets. If they want to find us, they'll need more people to see us before they can find us. So we need to move around in a small area like this. Not only do we have to be seen by many people, but we also don't move too much, so that they can find us in time and accurately. Do you understand? Fireball froze on the spot, and the other 4 stood beside Fireball. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Gu Fei looked at the 5 of them, just like how he looked at his students in class. I think you're anxious because they can't find us, right? Slender Waist Dance said. Am I anxious? Brother Zue, you're indeed a little anxious. Fireball's expression was one of righteousness above family. Is that so? Then how about we walk around one more time and find a random place to wait? Gu Fei wanted to be a democracy. All right. Everyone could only nod. Although it was a little funny, Gu Fei's explanation to Fireball was correct. It was indeed a simple and effective method to avoid being found by an unknown opponent. Unfortunately, Southbound Azure's Words group didn't appreciate this simple method at all. After carefully and tirelessly following the 6 of them for 2 rounds, Southbound Azure's Words group naturally realized that they were just taking a meaningless stroll. What the fuck are they doing? Flaming Clothes was the first to lose her patience and roared in the team channel. After so long, Gu Fei still hadn't left. He was still wandering around, feeling a lot of pressure. Great South, what do you think? Glue said. They're waiting for us, Southbound Azure Sword said. You think so too? Yeah, they have the advantage in numbers. We can't pick a situation like that to make a move, so after they left the tavern, they purposely sent most of their people away, leaving only 6 people with the same number of people as us. Then, they purposely wandered around in this small area. They want us to notice them so we can make a move, Southbound Azure Sword said. Didn't they think that we've been watching them from the shadows? Flaming Clothes said. So what if we've been watching them? Let me ask you, if we didn't recognize one of them as Qianli's Drunken, would we have already made a move against any of the 6? Southbound Azure Sword said. Yes. Flaming Clothes nodded. Apart from Qianli's Drunken, they weren't afraid of any team with the same number of people, even if their levels were a bit low. The only one who could come up with this idea is Qianli's Drunken. Only he would dare to look down on any opponent, Glue said. Motherfucker, Southbound Azure Sword cursed. Then what do we do? Flaming Clothes asked. Keep following them. I don't believe he'll be able to wander around for much longer. Southbound Azure Sword gritted his teeth. We can't PK, but we can't beat him in terms of patience? That's right. Let's compete in patience. Everyone was excited. They finally found a way to defeat Qianli's Drunken, even though it was just a fantasy. In the end, Silver Moon was still the most hesitant one. She followed Yi Xiaowu and Non-Smiler to the location that Southbound Azure Sword had given them, but Gu Fei's group was nowhere to be found. Of course, Silver Moon didn't want to ask for Gu Fei's exact location. Instead, she tried her best to avoid it by saying, I don't know the exact location. He might be nearby, or he might have left. Unexpectedly, she was right. Gu Fei's group was indeed nearby. Yi Xiaowu and Non-Smiler even used the method that Gu Fei had provided them. They asked the players nearby. The black robe wasn't unique, but with the addition of a dark purple top-grade longsword, Gu Fei naturally revealed all these characteristics in order to attract attention. Yi Xiaowu and Non-Smiler asked a few people and soon found out what it was. This way, the two started to lead Silver Moon away. Silver Moon wanted to cry but had no tears. As they asked and walked, Gu Fei's signature equipment could be seen from 200 meters away. Of course, the other 5 people beside him also saw it. Yi Xiaowu and Non-Smiler turned around and looked at Silver Moon. Alone? Silver Moon scratched her head and looked innocent. How could this be? Let's take a closer look, Yi Xiaowu said. Silver Moon and Non-Smiler weren't afraid. They were still far away. They could recognize that it was Gu Fei because of his equipment. Silver Moon and the others didn't dress so differently, so they weren't afraid of being recognized by Gu Fei. Even so, Bu Xiao still very cautiously covered his face. When they got closer, they could roughly determine the other people's equipment. 3 mages, 1 priest, 1 thief, and 1 archer, Non-Smiler calculated. That priest. Non-Smiler recognized the boundless Mang Mang and looked at Silver Moon with a strange expression. Silver Moon hurriedly signaled with her eyes. Although Non-Smiler didn't know why, he still quickly held back the second half of his words. It's a shadow priest, Yi Xiaowu added. He thought that Non-Smiler's confusion about the priest was because he found out that he was a rare shadow priest. Silver Moon immediately followed up. The mage on the far left is called Lani. His skills are quite good. As for the female thief, she's Slender Waist Dance. Slender Waist Dance? Yi Xiaowu and Non-Smiler exclaimed. Although they didn't know her, she was a famous person. Not only is her level high, but she's also very strong, Silver Moon said. Yes, her dagger dance wind is comparable to your Sword of Kings and Qianli's Drunken Knight sword. Although she doesn't have any skills, her damage output is very impressive. Her attack power is currently the highest. Yi Xiaowu said. Isn't it Qianli's Drunken? Silver Moon was surprised. I'm talking about weapons alone. The Knight Sword's attack power can't compare to Dancing Wind, but Qianli's Drunken also has that Dark Spirit robe. Intelligence plus 20, Magic Proficiency plus 1, and magic damage increases by 10%. It's a standard mage equipment, especially with the Magic Proficiency plus 1. If he doesn't have this robe, he'll be like you without the Ring of Leadership. He won't be able to use the full power of his weapon, and his high damage won't exist. Yi Xiaowu said. Knight Sword, Dark Spirit Robe. Silver Moon muttered. Everyone in the game knew that Gu Fei's equipment had terrifying damage, but it was only now that Silver Moon knew the names of these 2 pieces of equipment. On the other hand, Non-Smiler was in a rather awkward situation. Back when Gu Fei had slashed him, wasn't Gu Fei the one who had killed a mage in a split second? Gu Fei had used an ordinary enchanted blade to trample on Non-Smiler. For a moment, Non-Smiler felt that he was so petty. Speaking of which, why are there swords in mage equipment? This was something that Silver Moon had been puzzled about for a long time. Chapter 559. That's not a mage weapon. It deals both physical and magical damage. In theory, it's for knights, especially dark knights, Yi Xiaowu said. Used by knights, especially dark knights? These words made Silver Moon's heart race. His class was undoubtedly a knight, and he wasn't even level 40 yet. After reaching level 40, he would have to change classes again. If he advanced into a dark knight and got his hands on Qianli's Drunk Knight sword, wouldn't he have even more terrifying power? While Silver Moon was fantasizing, Non-Smiler didn't want to be left behind. As a thief, he naturally fantasized about Slender Waist Dance's dagger, Dancing Wind. He didn't know Slender Waist Dance, but he had heard many legends about this woman. Beauty, money, and power were the 3 main themes. So it was because of this dagger. If he got it, the 2 of them gulped, attracting a strange look from Yi Xiaowu. He immediately realized he had lost his composure and quickly calmed down. Where are the people you said were going to deal with Qianli's drunk? Yi Xiaowu asked Silver Moon. Silver Moon looked around, pretending to look for them. I don't know. I don't know them either. Have they been killed by Qianli's drunk? Yi Xiaowu frowned. Non-Smiler was even more direct, sending a message to Silvermoon. What the hell are you doing? Ever since they arrived at White Stone City, Non-Smiler felt that Silvermoon was more and more unnatural. Damn it, it's a long story. I'll tell you later, Silvermoon replied. What do we do now? Silvermoon kicked the ball to Yi Xiao. Let's wait and see. Yi Xiaowu didn't say much. Non-Smiler could see Silvermoon's unnaturalness, and so could he. Silvermoon had tried her best to instigate everyone to come and deal with 1,000 miles drunk, but the current situation was like this. It could be seen that Silvermoon wasn't willing, which made Yi Xiaowu even more confused as to what Silvermoon was planning. He also knew that he wouldn't get an answer if he asked directly. He could only choose to wait and see. In the end, they were just a group of people who used each other to deal with Gu Fei. With Silvermoon's character, Yi Xiaowu also disdained to be friends with him. At this time, Gu Fei and the others had already completed the last lap that he mentioned. They chose a relatively spacious place to wait for the other party to appear. Apart from Gu Fei, the others were already showing signs of impatience. Does this group of grandsons not dare to come again? Lonnie said. He felt that the way he had led his brothers out was enough to frighten ordinary thieves and make them give up on their thoughts of the boundless wilderness. If they were robbers, they wouldn't have given up so easily. Gu Fei said, You speak as if you know it very well? Lan Yi looked at Gu Fei from the corner of his eyes. Although he no longer saw Gu Fei as an enemy, he did not see him as a brother so quickly. I've dealt with this kind of people a few times. Gu Fei nodded. Oh, then in your opinion, why haven't they made a move yet? Lan Yi deliberately wanted to see Gu Fei make a fool of himself. It's already been so long. If they wanted to find us, there's no reason they couldn't find us. Gu Fei frowned. So, they should be watching us from somewhere. The other 5 people immediately looked around. Anyone who made eye contact would be regarded as a suspect. It seems like there's only one reason why they haven't made a move yet. They're waiting. Gu Fei said. Waiting for what? Honest. Waiting for them to be alone. It seems like they don't want to have a direct conflict with us anymore. They want to wait for the boundless wilderness to make a move. Gu Fei said. Their strength isn't weak. Boundless Wilderness said. A standard team of 6 people. Their skills are excellent and they cooperate well. Before, we had the advantage in numbers, but we weren't their opponents at all. If it wasn't for Lan Yi and the others arriving in time, it would have been bad. After that, we had the advantage in numbers, but they were able to escape unscathed with just 6 people. They're really strong. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka quickly added. They were saved by Lan Yi, which made him feel like he lost face. So, he had to point this out. First, it proved that the other side was indeed strong. Second, it highlighted that Lan Yi and the others weren't that great. So many people couldn't stop the 6 people. If they didn't have so many people, the result would have been just as bad. Fuck, didn't you see? At that time, that mage used that skill to seal off the entire street. The 2 brothers we caught up with died. If it wasn't for that skill, would they have been able to escape? Lan Yi heard the hidden meaning in Tsubasa Sakuratsuka's words. TSK, it means that your strategy wasn't good enough. Why didn't you cut off their escape route from the start? Tsubasa Sakuratsuka said. Fuck, how would I know where they would retreat to? Lan Yi said. That's why I said, it's not good enough. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka didn't know what he was proud of. Alright, don't argue. Gu Fei saw that Lan Yi was about to shout again, so he hurriedly interrupted. You said that the mage used a skill to seal off the street. What kind of skill? A wall of fire. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka said. It's 2. Lan Yi saw it more clearly. It's actually a sea of fire. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka argued. Fuck, you brat. Lan Yi couldn't take it anymore. He raised his hand and wanted to give Tsubasa Sakuratsuka a lightning spell. How could Gu Fei, who was also a lightning mage, not be unfamiliar with this action? He hurriedly reached out his hand and stopped him. I know who they are. Gu Fei said something that was enough to divert their attention. Who is it? As expected, even Lan Yi and Tsubasa Sakaratsuka immediately forgot about their argument and turned their heads to ask, Jian Nanyu. Gu Fei said. Everyone was startled. This name didn't need to be introduced too much. How do you know? Honest. That wall of fire skill is called Fire Beacon City. It's the signature skill of the mage in Jian Nanyu's team, Flaming Cloak. I've fought with them many times and have seen it many times. They are professional robbers. However, from what I know, they only do business if they accept a job. Who is it that wants the equipment in your hands? Gu Fei said. Staff. Ever since Boundless Mang had fought his way to Cloud Peak City, he had been a plainly dressed, ordinary player. Apart from his ideal staff, he didn't have any other equipment on him that was worthy of professional looting. Let's not talk about this for now. Gu Fei said, if it's them, why haven't they shown up yet? I think I know. But Lonnie asked again. Because of me. Gu Fei said. What do you mean? How do I say this? While Gu Fei was considering if he should be humble, Boundless Mang and the others already understood. Back in Linshui City, they even helped Gu Fei track down the whereabouts of Jian Nanyu's group. Later on, Gu Fei's group found the whereabouts of Jian Nanyu's group and continued to chase after them. In the boundless Linshui City, they reorganized themselves and continued to do their own things. At that time, Fireball carried a pile of PK points and stood at the Waterside City Tavern for more than 10 hours, becoming the laughing stock of their mercenary group. They saw that you were there, so they didn't dare make a move, right? Boundless Mang laughed. I'm afraid so. Gu Fei nodded. Brother Zue, you're too awesome. Fireball worshipped Gu Fei from head to toe. If it's them, then what we did before is pointless. They'll only make a move after I leave. Gu Fei said. Then what are you waiting for? Hurry up and leave. Slender Waist Dance chased Gu Fei away. They're not easy to deal with. Gu Fei's expression was serious. Child Elite Group often talked about this group of people, and their evaluation was quite good. To be able to gain the recognition of these top experts, Jian Nanyu's group of 7 was definitely not simple. What are you talking about? If you can deal with them, why can't I? Hurry up and disappear. Slender Waist Dance said. Okay, you guys be careful. Gu Fei could only agree and waved his hand to leave. Qianli is drunk and leaving. At almost the same time, Jian Nanyu's group and Yi Xiaowu's group passed on this good news. Follow him. The two groups gave the same order at the same time. The only difference was that Jian Nanyu only assigned Glue to follow Gu Fei, while Yi Xiaowu and the other two walked in the direction that Gu Fei had left. We can't be careless. Maybe this guy is purposely leaving to lure us into making a move. Jian Nanyu said. How does he know we're afraid of him? Horny asked. If he knows who we are. Jian Nanyu said. How could he know? You used Fire Beacon City before when we were retreating. If they talked about it, then Qianli would immediately know it was us. Jian Nanyu said. In other words, if he knows it's us, then Qianli will be able to guess our style. He knows we are hiding from him, so he left to make us show ourselves. If this is the case, then he is either pretending to leave and can come back at any time, or he thinks that the 5 people left behind are enough to deal with the 6 of us. Jian Nanyu analyzed. These 5 people? Even though Blackwater's group wasn't level 40 yet, they still felt that this was a joke. In the boundless wilderness, there's a shadow priest with weakened regeneration and a shadow priest specialty that hasn't been revealed yet. There's also a disabled class. That archer is a lurker, so what use are the traps in the town? They're also disabled. Not to mention that little mage, he's just an ordinary character. That mage seemed to be something, but at that time, they only had a lot of people. Now that he's alone, how can he be as strong as Qianli when he's drunk? There's also that female thief. The priest in the group of 7, Dao Xiangmu, analyzed the remaining 5 people one by one. That female thief came with Qianli when he was drunk, Glue said. Female thief in a red dress. Jian Nanyu thought of the most famous female thief in the parallel world. Could it be the Skinny Waist Dance? Flaming Clothes revealed the correct answer. That Qianli is underestimating us too much. If we have to be overcautious when facing any expert, we won't be able to survive in the future, Jian Nanyu said. But in reality, he was also rather wary of the waist dance. It was just that he knew that his brothers had been continuously dealt a blow by 1,000 miles drunk, and their confidence was already on the verge of collapse. Encountering 8,000 miles drunk again in today's mission was, in fact, adding fuel to the fire. They had no choice but to avoid Qianli's drunk because they knew that they were no match for him. But in the face of slim waist dance, if an opponent who had never fought before still chose to avoid it, avoidance would eventually become a habit. When that happened, it would be difficult for the team to regain their confidence. Chapter 560. Glue, leave this side to us. Keep an eye on Qianli drunk. It doesn't matter if he's really gone or not, report back to us at any time. As long as there's an opportunity, we'll attack immediately. Our target is vast and boundless, so don't get hung up on fighting. Understood. At such a crucial moment, no one would question Jian Nanyu's command. This was the quality of a mature team. Change your equipment and get closer. Mask yourselves. Jian Nanyu instructed. Both sides didn't know each other. Wearing masks would make it easier for the enemy to be on guard. The enemy was obviously waiting for them to show up. Jian Nanyu didn't want to launch a surprise attack. He only wanted to get closer to the target so he could engage the enemy faster. After all, no matter what Gu Fei's intentions were, as long as he heard the news, he would come back to help. Jian Nanyu didn't want to give the enemy any time to wait for Gu Fei's return. In position. In position. In position. Following a series of messages in the channel, the 5 people in charge of the attack had chosen their positions. The 5 of them chose their positions based on their class and experience. They chose a position where they wouldn't be noticed by the enemy and could attack as quickly as possible. Jian Nanyu changed into a normal warrior's armor and walked out of the street at a leisurely pace. He looked like a normal player who was in a hurry. As he walked, he inadvertently caught sight of the other players who were in position. The Knight Invincible Lucky Star and the Cleric Inagami were less than 10 meters away from them. The 2 of them were focused on a street and didn't even look at the 5 players behind them. The Flaming Cloak could attack from a distance, so he didn't get too close. He squatted in front of a player's stall and seriously negotiated with him. Blackwater's position. Jian Nanyu looked around but didn't find the thief Blackwater. I want to get closer. Blackwater replied quickly. Let's take a gamble. Let's see if they have anti-stealth abilities. If you're discovered, pay attention to the direction of retreat. Jian Nanyu said. Understood. Coordinate with my forward speed. Of course. Jian Nanyu continued to walk forward slowly without batting an eyelid. The 5 of them formed a circle in the vast expanse, and they could see everything around them. Jian Nanyu, Invincible Lucky Star, Dao Xiangmu, and Horani were already in their sights, but they had not shown any intention to attack, so the 5 of them were not too vigilant. However, Jian Nanyu was slowly advancing toward the 5 of them. More and more of their gazes landed on Jian Nanyu. We're about to enter 2 meters, Blackwater said nervously in the channel. Based on the anti-stealth equipment and skills they had seen, 2 meters was a very dangerous area. Most of these skills and equipment had a limit of 2 meters. Step in, no movement. Blackwater's next message came in the blink of an eye. If everything goes smoothly, we should be able to end the battle in 10 seconds. Glue, where is Qianli Izue? Jian Nan asked. There's no way we can make it back in 10 seconds, Glue replied. Get ready. Jian Nanyu gave the order and suddenly sped up. In the vast expanse, the gazes of the 5 of them were already fixed on him. Jian Nanyu quickly changed his attire and drew his sword. The expressions of the 5 of them changed immediately. They knew that the person they were waiting for had finally arrived. The 5 people who were already prepared for battle reacted quickly. The arrow that Sakurazuka Tsukiyo had been holding for a long time immediately shot towards Kenami Yuki. Fireball and Lan-E also waved their staffs and chanted spells. Thunder fell from the sky, a sea of fire rose from the ground, and an arrow flew like a meteor. The 3 of them attacked at almost the same time, and their coordination was quite good. However, Their opponent was a warrior. The three of them were not sure if their combined attack would be able to kill Jian Nanyu instantly. They were already preparing for the second round of attacks. However, Jian Nanyu was not going to sit and wait for death. Almost at the same time as the three of them attacked, he bent his knees and charged forward. He stepped on the sea of fire, and Tsubasa Sakuratsuka's snipe was blocked by Jian Nanyu's sword and shield. Lan Yi's lightning skill barely grazed Jian Nanyu's body and struck his back. "Good lad. Watch me." Slender Waist Dance leaped forward and was about to use Swift Step to circle around and attack Jian Nanyu when she suddenly felt something strange behind her. She shouted, "Behind you," in the vast expanse. Of course, only a stealth thief could sneak behind her without anyone noticing. Most people would be flustered when they heard the notification and would not know how to dodge. However, Slender Waist Dance did not have this problem. The reason was that she only used one form of defense. When a normal player was behind a thief, they would be afraid of being stunned by sap or being stabbed in the back and killed instantly. Normally, a sap would hit the head and a backstab would hit the waist. Different parts of the body had different dodging methods. If a normal player hesitated for a moment, they would be hit. However, Slender Waist Dance did not have such concerns. She did not know what it meant to be killed instantly. If she knew it was a backstab, she would not have dodged it. She only needed to defend against sap. As for Slender Waist Dance, she had already gained some experience in dodging staggering blows. At that moment, when she noticed that there was something strange behind her, she did not hesitate at all. In the vast expanse, when she shouted, "Behind me," Slender Waist Dance twisted her body and fell to the ground. Blackwater's hand was indeed a big stick. No matter how famous Slender Waist Dance was, they had all heard about how strong she was. Moreover, when Qianli was drunk, he might turn around at any time. If they fought seriously with Slender Waist Dance, they would definitely waste time. Blackwater took the risk to sneak up to Slender Waist Dance, intending to give her a sap and quickly accomplish their mission in a few seconds when she was knocked out. Blackwater used to be a robber, so he was very good at sap. Whether the target dodged left and right, lowered his head, or ran quickly, Blackwater was confident to hit the target's head accurately. However, Blackwater had never seen a dodging method like Slender Waist Dance, who threw herself on the ground. This dodging method was totally out of his scope of thinking. Blackwater was a little stunned, but he was still confident with the stick in his hand. Although Slender Waist Dance's head seemed to be a little far away, Blackwater still persistently chased after her head to hit it. However, before the stick hit her, Blackwater suddenly felt a heavy blow on his calf. He looked down and saw that Slender Waist Dance's feet kicked on his legs fiercely when she fell to the ground. This blow didn't cause much damage, but it took away Blackwater's balance. Blackwater, who was kicked by Slim Waist Dancer, was off the ground. He leaned forward and directly pounced on Slim Waist Dancer, who had fallen in front of him. No matter how good Blackwater's sap skill was, he had lost consciousness at this moment. Seeing the beautiful girl lying on the ground looking at him with a smile, Blackwater was at a loss. What? The beautiful girl wants me to take advantage of her? Blackwater had no doubt that he would throw himself on Slender Waist Dance. Even though he was not as wretched as his brothers who lived forever in the flower bush, he inevitably had such an idea at this moment. However, the next second, Blackwater had already cried. He saw Slender Waist Dance put her hands together, and her sharp dagger was standing proudly in front of her chest. Slender Waist Dance could kill people instantly without using any skills. She only needed one strike. Thinking of this terrible legend, Blackwater's heart was broken. He knew that he had no chance to throw himself on the girl at all. The moment he touched Slender Waist Dance, he would be turned into a ball of white light by that dagger. At this critical moment, a foot suddenly rushed out from the side and flattened the dagger in front of Slender Waist Dance's chest. "Fuck!" Slender Waist Dance, who was lying on the ground, shouted. Blackwater had seen people who didn't know how to be tender to the fairer sex, but today he saw the worst one. He ignored the beautiful girl and even stepped on her chest. Slender Waist Dance was so depressed that she wanted to vomit blood, but she had no strength to resist. No matter how violent she was, she couldn't compete with a berserk warrior in terms of strength. Moreover, Azure Blade wasn't an ordinary warrior. Slender Waist Dance played Blackwater like an idiot, but now she was trapped in her own trap and made herself an idiot. Azure Blade stepped on Azure Blade and waved his shield with his left hand, knocking Blackwater to the side. His right hand that was holding the sword also spun and slashed at the boundless bushes. "Run! It's Whirlwind Slash!" Lan Yi yelled at the side. Without Slender Waist Dance's interception, Azure Blade finally rushed into their formation while withstanding their long-range attacks. Lan Yi, who was experienced in PK, had already expected that he would use Whirlwind Slash, and his main target was obviously the boundless bushes. Lan Yi knew that. How could he not see through the boundless bushes? However, when he saw Slender Waist Dance being stepped on by Azure Blade, he didn't dodge. Instead, he buried his head and bumped into Azure Blade, trying to create some openings to help Slender Waist Dance escape. Lan Yi and the other 3 long-range classes had already hidden outside the attack range of Whirlwind Slash. At this moment, when they saw Azure Blade's actions, they were shocked and hurriedly attacked Azure Blade. However, with Slender Waist Dance and Azure Blade entangling him, area of effect spells couldn't be used. Lan Yi cast Lightning Spell and Fireball summoned Chain Fireball. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka shot his arrows directly. Azure Blade moved his sword and shield to the side and used his head to block a lightning spell. "Let's see how long you can last." Lan Yi roared and also summoned Chain Fireball. However, before his fireball arrived, a white light had already enveloped Azure Blade. Following that, a string of blessing symbols appeared on his head. Dao Xiangmu and Unrivaled Lucky Star had already started working in an orderly manner. Blackwater was overjoyed. He felt that his side had the upper hand and wanted to deal with the 3 long-range classes. In the end, Azure Blade glared at him and roared, "What are you doing? Retreat, Qianli will be here soon." Blackwater was startled and hurriedly glanced at their channel. When he was preparing to use sap, there seemed to be a message, but he didn't look at it at that time. As expected, Glue had already shouted in the channel, "Qianli suddenly disappeared. Hurry up!" A silhouette suddenly flew up. Azure Blade was originally just putting on a Whirlwind Slash posture, intending to scare Azure Blade back a few steps. However, he didn't expect the girl to advance instead of retreating. This time, Azure Blade didn't hold back anymore. Looking at the approaching figure of Azure Blade, he suddenly slashed horizontally. This slash seemed to move by a very small margin, but it was a real Whirlwind Slash. Azure Blade was slashed head-on and immediately flew out like a kite with a broken string. On the other side, Lan Yi and Tsubasa Sakuratsuka were very concerned about Azure Blade. When they saw her being slashed away, their faces turned ashen. But then they found that Azure Blade was still intact and didn't turn into white light in the air. Both of them were relieved. It seemed that Azure Blade's attack wasn't so terrible that it could kill someone in a second. While feeling lucky, they were about to rush over to help Azure Blade. They had only taken 2 steps when they saw flames suddenly rise in the open space, and a ring of fire suddenly appeared in the sky. Fiery Garment, who was bargaining in front of the stall, held the gadget she had just bought in one hand and raised her staff to chant a spell. "Azure Blade." Tsubasa Sakuratsuka hurriedly shot an arrow at Fiery Garment. He hoped that this arrow could kill the sorcerer in a second and make the 2 spells ineffective. But Tsubasa Sakuratsuka really didn't have that much confidence in his attack power. Lan Yi also hurriedly waved his staff to chant. A glimmer of hope lit up in Tsubasa Sakuratsuka's heart. If Lan Yi used Thunder and Fiery Garment used Snipe, it might be possible to kill a sorcerer in a second. But Fiery Garment wasn't that easy to deal with. She had already chosen a place to take cover. As soon as she saw someone was about to attack, she immediately hid behind it. Sakurazuka Tsukasa, who had mediocre archery skills, missed his shot and had a pained expression on his face. However, a strange thing happened at this moment. Just as he was about to fall into the sea of fire, the vast Mang Mang suddenly slowed down and flew slower and slower in the air. Finally, it floated in the air. The heavenly fire wheel that Fiery Garment had summoned had already descended, But Azure Blade didn't fall into the sea of fire. The buoyancy suddenly disappeared, and Azure Blade fell to the ground. Everyone's mouths were agape while they were dumbstruck. They didn't know why this scene was happening, and even the boundless expanse itself was at a loss. "I'm fine," Lan Yi suddenly said. He turned his head and saw that Lan Yi was sweating profusely and had a relieved expression on his face. He had just put down the magic staff that he had raised. "You did that?" Tsubasa Sakuratsuka asked. "Yeah." Lan Yi nodded. "What skill?" "Why should I tell you?" Lan Yi arrogantly looked at Tsubasa Sakuratsuka with disdain. "Are you two idiots? Why are you arguing now?" Slender Waist Dance, who was still being stepped on by Yu, shouted angrily. Invincible Lucky Star was the closest to Azure Blade, and he was already charging toward it. Although he wasn't a powerful combat class, Azure Blade's Whirlwind Slash was enough to kill a cleric. Invincible Lucky Star believed that he could finish her off with a few more hits. "You idiot, why didn't you let Azure Blade get closer to us?" Tsubasa Sakuratsuka rushed forward to save Azure Blade as he scolded Lan Yi. "What the hell do you know?" Lan Yi was furious. He tried his best to stop Azure Blade, but it wasn't easy to teleport a living person. Whoosh! A wall of fire suddenly appeared in front of the two of them, blocking their way. Fire Flaming Robe emerged from behind cover and cast spells to stop the two of them. "Fuck, kill him." Tsubasa Sakuratsuka had no choice but to cooperate with Lan Yi. "I don't have any strength left," Lan Yi roared. "Fuck, you piece of trash." Tsubasa Sakuratsuka wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He watched as the knight swung his sword at Azure Blade, who had just gotten up from the ground. Chapter 561. "Brother Zue, why aren't you here yet?" Fireball screamed in despair. His strength was undoubtedly the weakest among the five of them. Lan Yi and Sakurazuka Tsukuzi were in a hurry to save him. Only the fireball was still under Kenami Yuki's feet, and there was one under his feet. At this moment, Fireball was dancing and singing around Jian Nanyu like a clown. He wanted to use spells to force Jian Nanyu to leave. However, Jian Nanyu dared to resist the attacks of 3 people, so why would he care about a single person? Moreover, he had a cleric with him. Sometimes, he was too lazy to even block the spells that Fireball threw at him with his shield. "He's here." Gu Fei finally arrived at the critical moment. At this moment, the battle was at a critical moment. No one noticed where he came from. They only knew that when he suddenly appeared, he was already in a half-squat position in front of the boundless Mang. He raised his sword with both hands and received the slash from Invincible Lucky Star. Quite a bit of strength. Although Gu Fei's strength was not that great, Invincible Lucky Star did not increase her strength. 8 taels against half a kilogram, Gu Fei still managed to withstand the slash. As he spoke, he looked back expressionlessly. "Sorry." Boundless Mang was embarrassed. She was not prepared to wait for death. When she saw Invincible Lucky Star coming over, she immediately used her Shadow Priest's attack skill, Kiss of Death. However, Gu Fei appeared just in time. Her kiss landed on Gu Fei's body. Gu Fei turned around to show her his face so that Boundless Mang could see that it was him and stop messing around. Her eyes were not on Invincible Lucky Star. Her actions were completely directed at him. "You don't look familiar," Gu Fei said to Invincible Lucky Star as he got up and rushed forward. The blade of his sword brushed past Invincible Lucky Star's long sword as if it was not obstructed at all. When Invincible Lucky Star turned into a ball of white light, the light on the Night Streamer's sword surged and burned. Gu Fei's actions were too fast, so fast that he didn't even receive the answer to his own question. Turning his eyes, Gu Fei had already caught a glimpse of Flamethrower. When Flamethrower saw Gu Fei looking in its direction, it quickly shrank its head. While Gu Fei was debating whether to go up and kill it, Fireball was already shouting, "Brother Zue, come and help." Gu Fei didn't hesitate any longer. He hurriedly dragged the vast expanse of grass and rushed over there. At this moment, Jian Nanyu was so depressed that he wanted to die. He had been proud of stepping on the Slender Waist Dance for a while, but now it was his turn to be trapped in his own trap. It was unknown how much defense this thin waist dance had. Jian Nanyu slashed her a few times, but she still looked fine. However, the anger in her eyes made Jian Nanyu have no doubt that once he released her, his fate would be extremely miserable. At this time, even the scarier Gu Fei had turned around. Jian Nanyu didn't dare to dawdle anymore. He suddenly stepped on the slender waist dance and stepped over her. The moment he released his foot, he immediately kicked her back. Jian Nanyu's strength was not to be underestimated. The slender waist dance was kicked straight toward Gu Fei. "Don't worry about me. Fuck, you bastard." The slender waist dance originally wanted to shout, "Don't worry about me." However, she realized that Gu Fei had no intention of catching her. When he saw her flying over, he immediately dodged to the side with super agility. The slender waist dance suddenly felt upset. She changed her words and cursed while falling to the ground with her face covered in dirt. "Are you okay?" The vast expanse of grass stopped and quickly checked on the slender waist dance's situation. However, Gu Fei continued to move forward bravely toward Jian Nanyu. Jian Nanyu couldn't help but feel a little sympathetic. Qianli was as unmoved by women as he was when he was drunk. He was really a real man. It was a pity that he had encountered a real man. How could he outrun Qianli when he was drunk? "Retreat." Jian Nanyu did not move, but he gave the order. The others obviously knew that he was going to sacrifice himself to buy time for everyone to escape. Judging from the current situation, it was indeed the only choice. Jian Nanyu could not escape. Horini, who had been hiding, turned around and ran. When he realized that Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and Lan Yi seemed to still be interested in him, he quickly threw another firewall to force them to retreat. Blackwater and Dao Xiangmu had already carried out Jian Nanyu's order to escape. It was not difficult for them to escape. The situation of not being able to kill everyone in one fell swoop did not weaken Gu Fei's fighting spirit. The double flame flash appeared on his sword again, and he slashed at Jian Nanyu with his fangs and claws. Jian Nanyu did not show any weakness. He used charge in front of him with his shield. When Gu Fei saw that Jian Nanyu's shield was very low, he knew that Jian Nanyu was very serious about fighting him. When the two of them fought for the first time in Linshui City, Jian Nanyu also used charge. However, his shield was raised too normally. Gu Fei easily rolled under his shield with a trick from the Earth Hall Saber technique. It was obvious that Jian Nanyu had a deep impression of it. Unable to use the same trick again, Gu Fei dodged to the left of Jian Nanyu. Although Gu Fei did not know which angle he would attack with his sword hidden behind the shield, it would not be easy to attack the enemy on the left with the sword in his right hand. Gu Fei was confident that his sword would be faster than Jian Nanyu's. Dang! A loud sound was heard. Gu Fei's sword was indeed fast, but Jian Nanyu was not slow either. However, he did not use the sword hidden behind the shield to attack. He only flipped the shield in his left hand, and Gu Fei's sword hit the shield. Not good. Gu Fei cried in his heart. Jian Nanyu's charge did not stop there. After blocking Gu Fei's sword, he brushed past Gu Fei. His target was not Gu Fei, but the vast expanse. From the beginning to the end, Jian Nanyu was very clear about the purpose of this trip. Even if Gu Fei appeared, he would only be a huge obstacle. The focus of their attention was always the vast expanse. Jian Nanyu had just helped Slender Waist dance up in the vast expanse. Both of them thought that if Gu Fei attacked, Jian Nanyu would definitely be finished off in a few moves. They did not expect him to break through Gu Fei's attack. Slender Waist Dance's reaction was faster, and she pushed the vast expanse away. Jian Nanyu felt depressed, but he could not let this charge go to waste. He could only give it to Slender Waist Dance, the woman who ruined his plan. Slender Waist Dance could not dodge in time. She was hit by the charge and flew high into the air. White light. Fuck! Gu Fei was shocked. Although Slender Waist Dance was a girl, in his mind, she was an Iron Man that could not be killed no matter what. Her equipment could attack and defend, but he did not expect her to die in Jian Nanyu's hands at this moment. You teleported, right? Gu Fei could not believe it and messaged Slender Waist Dance. Teleport my ass. Avenge me. Slender Waist Dance's reply explained everything. No matter how high one's defense was, it was not limitless. Moreover, Jian Nenyu was not some random person on the streets. His attack power was also first-rate. When he was stepping on Thin Waist Dance, he had already slashed her several times. Now that he was charging at her, how could Thin Waist Dance withstand it? No matter how good her equipment was, a thief's HP was still at that level. Jian Nenyu was surprised that he had actually killed Slender Waist Dance. He looked up and saw Mang Mang lying not far away. However, Jian Nenyu knew that he definitely did not have the chance. Qianli was drunk and was probably going to explode. Jian Nenyu felt that he could smell the flame aura that could kill him instantly. Mana! Jian Nenyu heard Gu Fei shout. The voice was extremely close to him. Jian Nenyu swung his shield behind him with all his might, hoping to use this large area to block Gu Fei's attack again. In the end, when the shield was lifted, Gu Fei was right in front of him. Gu Fei's sword was already aimed at his chin. Jian Nenyu felt his hair stand on end when he was stabbed in such a terrifying place. At that moment he no longer had any PvP awareness or skills. He reflexively waved his sword and slashed at Gu Fei in front of him. Gu Fei had already floated to the other side, and the sword slashed at Jian Nenyu's neck again. Mang Mang had already gotten up. She pulled out her ideal staff and cast Mana Sacrifice. Jian Nenyu was here for this equipment, so how could he not guess what she was doing? He knew that Gu Fei's next attack would be a spell, and he would definitely be in danger. Jian Nenyu did not want to die in vain. He waved his sword and shield randomly, trying to make it difficult for Gu Fei to get close to him. At the same time, he stubbornly ran toward Mang Mang. Gu Fei's magic power was only a little bit away from casting a dual flame flash. He cast a spell in the vast expanse of land, and in just a short while, he was able to replenish it. He immediately chanted, and the dual flame flash slashed towards Jian Nan. As for Jian Nan's random brandishing, they were all flaws in Gu Fei's eyes, and he could directly ignore them. A sharp gust of wind suddenly sounded, and Gu Fei hurriedly stopped in his tracks. The arrow almost streaked past his eyes, and if he didn't stop, he would have been hit in the head. This arrow's advanced control could be said to be extremely precise. If not for Gu Fei's super-fast reaction, it would have hit without a doubt. The sudden turn of events made everyone involuntarily look in the direction of the arrow. They saw a person dashing out of the street at high speed. His hands were held horizontally like he was holding a gun. Another arrow had already been released. Gu Fei already knew who this strange archer was. After he hurriedly dodged the arrow, the water-breaking arrow jumped behind a flower bed. "Danan, hurry up and run." A loud shout covered the sharp sound of an arrow piercing through the air. This arrow was not from the breaking water arrow. After Gu Fei dodged to the side, he found an archer half exposed at the foot of the wall and shot the arrow at him. Jian Nenyu could tell that it was the voice of his brother Glu. At the same time, he also received the direction for him to retreat in the channel. He no longer hesitated and ran. He even tried to pass through the vast wilderness. Mang Mang wasn't stupid enough to be chopped down like a wooden stake. He quickly dodged and ran away. The movement speed of the warrior and the priest were about the same, but they were slower. Kenenyu did not dare to chase after them anymore, and he ran with all his might. Trying to run? Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and Fireball valiantly ran out to help. Lan Yi's mana had recovered slightly after eating the fruit, so he also wanted to intercept them. As a result, with 3 consecutive pa-pa-pa sounds, each of the 3 had a short arrow pierced through their foreheads, and the 3 of them immediately froze on the spot. Chapter 562. Sakurazuka Tsukasa, Lan Yi, and Fireball had the arrows sticking out of their heads as if they had been tagged. Their faces were filled with fear. Evidently, the sudden and accurate arrow had scared them out of their wits. "Hide!" Gu Fei yelled at the 3 of them. Water-breaking arrows' shooting skill was similar to Gu Fei's PvP skills. It was an existence that surpassed the average player. Especially with the help of the accuracy of long-range attacks, he was like a fish in water. Seeing the 3 arrows, the people who were shot were still in a daze, as if they didn't know what had happened. The difference in the three people's styles was reflected once again. After Gu Fei yelled, Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and Fireball immediately crouched down and scurried around for cover. If there was a mouse hole on the ground, the two of them would probably be able to stuff their heads into it. Lan Yi was different. He straightened his neck and roared like a warrior, "Which son of a bitch dares to stab me in the back?" But another arrow answered him. Who would be courteous to him on the battlefield? Another water-breaking arrow shot out. Lan Yi's forehead didn't just have one tag, but two. So troublesome. Gu Fei originally wanted to chase after Jian Nanyu, but when he saw this brat foolishly wanting to fight one-on-one, he weighed the pros and cons and felt that it was more important to protect his life than to destroy it. After much difficulty, he used instant transmission and floated to Lan Yi's side with a xiao sound. Lan Yi angrily opened his mouth to curse, but then he saw an arrow fly past where he had just been standing. Only then did he know that Gu Fei's kick was to help him. If it wasn't for this, he would have been marked with a third mark on his forehead. With 3 arrows in a row, it would be hard to say if he could keep his life. Even so, it was too difficult for him to say, "Thank you," to Gu Fei. Gu Fei didn't care about this. He looked back and saw that Jian Nan was really in a hurry. At this time, he had already run into the alley and turned somewhere. The 2 archers, who had formed a triangular formation, released a few more arrows. They were all rushing towards the boundless thicket. Gu Fei was already prepared for them to attack the vast expanse of grass, so he hurriedly rushed forward and brandished his sword to block them. However, the enemy's main goal was to restrain Gu Fei for a while. There were no longer any of their people around them in the vast wilderness, so what was the point of killing them? Their goal was to obtain equipment, not to kill. Glue and water-breaking arrow didn't bother each other anymore. After 2 feints, they both retreated. At this time, Gu Fei still had the thought of going down to chase after Jian Nanyu. However, when he saw the arrows on the foreheads of the 3 brothers, he felt that it might be the enemy's diversion. It was more appropriate to stay by Mang Mang's side to protect him. Gone? After a moment of silence, Fireball poked its head out from behind a well by the roadside. It looked around and asked cautiously. Gu Fei didn't dare to make a rash conclusion. He looked around for a while and didn't say anything. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka had just flipped over a pile of wooden barrels. At this time, he also climbed out and hurriedly ran towards the vast expanse. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." The vast expanse of grass looked at the arrow that was still stuck in Tsubasa Sakuratsuka's forehead and held back a smile. "Pull it out, oh." Tsubasa Sakuratsuka was so nervous that he forgot. Water-breaking arrows' superb archery skills weren't only reflected in the accuracy of the shot. The choice of the position, the timing of the shot, the rhythm of the cover, all of them exuded a sense of professionalism. Although Tsubasa Sakuratsuka was a lurker, he had also played with archery. He deeply felt the terrifying power of this archer. As for Fireball and Lan Yi, they were even more direct. The 2 of them didn't even know where the water-breaking arrow that attacked them was hiding. Luckily, his attack isn't that high. Gu Fei said to Lan Yi. Lan Yi was also pulling out the arrow. When he heard Gu Fei speak, he raised his head and looked at him. "What? Do you know who it is?" Gu Fei nodded his head. "He's called Water-Breaking Arrow." "Who is it?" Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and the vast expanse of grass came over together and asked. "A group of people that I have a grudge with. Looks like they've also roped in Jian Nanyu's group." "That's right, it's this group of people that rescued Silvermoon," Gu Fei said. Lan Yi was an active participant in Baishur City's recent ambush of Silvermoon. He also publicized Silvermoon's disgusting story of abandoning his brother and wife and running away. Ever since Silvermoon was trapped in Baishur City's night camp, this had become the main theme of Lan Yi's gaming life. Now that Silvermoon was suddenly rescued, Lan Yi's heart was at a loss. He secretly cursed these guys who rescued him. If that's the case, then Silvermoon was the one who asked these guys to kill boundless Mang Mang's staff. His king's sword skill. Lan Yi's mind spun quite quickly, but halfway through his sentence, he seemed to have thought of something and abruptly stopped. Then he stole a glance at boundless Mang Mang. Seeing that her expression didn't change, he let out a sigh of relief. But in the end he didn't dare say too much. He only fiercely cursed, "This bastard, I have to teach him a lesson." A few days ago he had ambushed Silver Moon for so long, but Lan Yi didn't get a chance to kill this guy. He felt very uneasy. How's little dance? Vast Expanse didn't care about Silver Moon at all. Right now, he was more concerned about the heroic sacrifice of Slender Waist Dance. Gu Fei sighed. The list of the 5 roaches needs to be updated again. Just as he finished speaking, he heard Slender Waist Dance yelling at the top of her lungs, "Where's that bastard?" "He ran away." Everyone said regretfully. "Ran away? You idiot, why did you let him run away?" Slender Waist Dance's anger was all directed at Gu Fei. Gu Fei said helplessly, "Someone came out to cause trouble, so he ran away." Actually, Gu Fei had already prepared teleportation at that time. Unfortunately, he had used it to save Lan Yi. Otherwise, he might have been able to stop Jian Nanyu. "Where did he go? Why aren't you chasing him?" Slender Waist Dance said angrily. "It's better to be careful. The opponent is very cunning." Gu Fei didn't have the nerve to say that he was afraid that they would all be killed. That would hurt his pride. "I'm so angry." Slender Waist Dance stomped her feet. "Sister Slender Waist, don't be angry. There will be a chance to take revenge in the future. Your clothes are still dirty. Let me help you pat them." Fireball came out of nowhere and stretched out a demonic claw to help Slender Waist Dance slap the footprint left by Jian Nanyu on her chest. In the end, Slender Waist Dance was angry, but she wasn't stupid. She immediately glared at Fireball. Fireball quickly raised his hand and scratched the back of his head. He laughed dryly and said, "Let Brother Zue do it." Slender Waist Dance glared at Gu Fei again. Gu Fei glared at Fireball. This guy was so wretched and still wanted to drag him down. He was asking for it. "Let's leave this place first." In the end, it was Vast Expanse who came over and pulled Slender Waist Dance's hand. He helped her pat her clothes and led them away. In another alleyway, Jian Nanyu ran for his life. He looked back every 3 steps, but he didn't see the black figure. His heart gradually calmed down. He had already turned 17 or 18 corners along the way. Jian Nanyu estimated that no one could catch up to him. He finally slowed down and called out to everyone in the channel, "Has everyone escaped?" Everyone answered, except for the unrivaled Lucky Star who died in battle. Jian Nanyu let out a long sigh. The moment Qianli Drunk appeared, he really thought that they were going to be wiped out again. He had suffered a lot from Qianli Drunk, so he was very afraid. That's right, who was that archer? Jian Nanyu's eyes were sharp. Although he only took a quick glance before he left, he could tell that the water-breaking arrow's shooting skill was extraordinary. Whether it was forcing Qianli Drunk back with 1 arrow or hitting 3 people in an instant, it was done very well. "It's a group of people I met when I was following Qianli Drunk. I was just about to ask you to meet them," Glu said. "Poor they." Jian Nanyu knew that his group's identity wasn't very good, so he tried his best to avoid contact with others and carefully protect his brothers. The archer said his name was Water-Breaking Arrow. "Did he contact you?" Glu said, "I think so." After Glu said this, Jian Nanyu really did remember that a player with the ID of Water-Breaking Arrow had sent him a few letters in the past few days. His intentions were very clear in the letters. They wanted to deal with Qianli Drunk and wanted to see if Jian Nanyu could help. Jian Nanyu wouldn't rashly accept business from strangers. Secondly, he couldn't wait to avoid Qianli Drunk, so he didn't care about the letter. He didn't think that he would actually run into them. "Where are they?" Jian Nanyu asked Glu. "Over at White Sand Tower." Glu said, "Oh, then I'll come over." Jian Nanyu was satisfied with this location. Unlike the others, Jian Nanyu and his team rarely chose places like taverns for gatherings. They would often choose a quiet corner. This White Sand Tower was a normal building in White Stone City. There weren't many NPCs around and there wasn't much space for players to move around. It was the type of secluded place Jian Nanyu liked. "Are we going too?" Hualini and Heishui asked in the chat. "No rush. I'll go take a look first. You guys be on your guard." Be careful not to bump into Qianli drunk. Jian Nanyu said. Okay. Lin Mu, you don't have to stay in the priest academy to keep an eye on them. Vast Mang Mang can wait for now. Jian Nanyu specially said to one person. Lin Mu was another cleric in Jian Nanyu's group of 7. In the plan to kill Vast Mang Mang, he was assigned to stay in the priest academy. After Vast Mang Mang was killed and revived, he would continue to track him. This was also where Jian Nanyu and the others were very experienced. Letting the target know that they would continue to chase after them at the revival point was a very troublesome matter. As a result, Jian Nanyu and the others usually followed the strategy of keeping an eye on them and not killing them. Sometimes, they would even patiently wait for an hour before making a second move. In short, they wouldn't let the opponent have any doubts about the safety of the revival point. It was a pity that this time's mission was full of unexpected problems. It looked like they wouldn't have a chance to make a move in a short period of time, so there was no need to make any arrangements. Chapter 563. Jianan carefully walked towards the white sand tower. From afar, he saw 5 people gathered at the bottom of the tower. One of them was his brother, Glu. The other 4 were a priest, a knight, a thief, and an archer. He quickly walked up and introduced them one by one: Broken Arrow, Hongchen Yixiao, Non-Smiler, Silver Moon. Jian Nan had seen the names Broken Water Arrow and Red Dust Smile in the mail he had received. As for the latter 2 names, he had heard of them a long time ago, especially Silver Moon, who was a business partner that he had never met before. Jianan couldn't help but look at Silver Moon, causing him to panic a little. He immediately sent a message to Jianan, "Don't mention such matters." Jianan did not even bother to respond to this message. They were professional robbers and would never do something like revealing information about the buyer behind the scenes, even if it was Silver Moon. However, this scumbag wanted to measure the heart of a gentleman with his own mean measure. Jianan had a bad impression of him. "Jianan? It's an honor to meet you." Yi Xiaowu took the initiative to greet him. This surprised Jianan. Of the 4 people on the other side, Non-Smiler and Silver Moon could be considered famous. He had seen Broken Arrow's skills before, but the first person to greet him was this unremarkable priest. This detail undoubtedly showed that this priest was their leader. This was something Jianan didn't expect. "If you received the mail we sent you, I believe you know why we are here," Yi Xiaowu said. Jianan nodded. "Then what do you think?" Yi Xiaowu asked. 20,000 gold coins. Jianan said. "What?" Yi Xiaowu was startled. "It's not that easy to deal with Qianli." Jianan said. "You mean you also have to pay to deal with Qianli?" Yi Xiaowu said. Jianan nodded. Silver Moon wanted to say something. She opened her mouth, but in the end she held it back. "Then what is the concept of 20,000 gold coins?" Yi Xiaowu asked. Jianan was familiar with doing business and knew what Yi Xiaowu meant by concept. He immediately explained, 20,000 gold coins per level. We'll talk about it below level 40. All the drops are yours. The price is really high, Yi Xiaowu said. Since everyone has interacted with Qianli before, of course you know better than anyone how abnormal he is. Jian Nanyu said. That's right. That's why I'm looking for trouble with him. Yi Xiaowu nodded. I'm just afraid that before we can find trouble with him, he will instead become your trouble. Jian Nanyu said with deep emotion. This was how they provoked this big trouble. He's already a problem, so we have to get rid of him, Yi Xiaowu said. As long as we have money, we are not afraid of trouble. Jian Nan smiled. I can pay you, but the condition is that all of you listen to my commands. Yi Xiaowu said. Sure, but I need to know all the details of the plan. We don't want to be cannon fodder. Jian Nan said. No problem. Yi Xiaowu nodded. Deal. Jian Nanyu extended his hand towards him. Don't worry. The amount of money is too big. I don't have it right now. I need to raise it. Yi Xiaowu's hand didn't move. Anytime. Jian Nanyu withdrew his hand. Then, see you later? Yi Xiaowu said. See you later. Jian Nanyu nodded. He gave Glu a look and the two left first. It's finally done. Yi Xiaowu said to Broken Water Arrow. Broken Water Arrow nodded. Silver Moon and Non-Smiler looked at each other. 20,000 gold for one level. The two firmly believed that they had just witnessed the biggest deal since the opening of the parallel world. This guy really dares to ask for it. Non-Smiler muttered to Silver Moon. Silver Moon nodded. He had interacted with Jian Nanyu before, so he didn't need to ask about the concept, like Yi Xiaowu did. He knew that 20,000 meant 20,000 for one level. When Jian Nanyu said this number, Silver Moon was certain that he didn't want to do business at all. He purposely made up a number to make people back off. Think about it, a magic staff that dropped from Vast Expanse only cost 3,000 gold. The market price of a magic staff was about 2,000 gold. This meant that Vast Expanse's level was bought for only 1,000 gold. Moreover, it was unknown how many levels were bought with 1,000 gold. Equipment dropped from killing people depended on luck. If you were lucky, it would drop once. Then, 1,000 gold was equivalent to one level of Vast Expanse. If you were unlucky, it would only drop after 10 kills. Then, 1,000 gold was equivalent to buying 10 levels of Vast Expanse. In comparison, Gu Fei was asking for 20,000 gold for a mere level. If this wasn't asking for a sky-high price, then what was? Jian Nanyu's asking for an exorbitant price was already awesome enough, but what was even more awesome was that this cleric actually dared to feed. This caused Silver Moon to be confused for a moment. Was this big brother an expert or a rookie? Did he have any common sense? He seemed quite happy that he had made such an idiotic deal. 20,000 gold. Wouldn't Jian Nanyu take 10,000 gold as a deposit? Was this kid going to disappear after taking 10,000 gold? Thinking about this, Silver Moon sent a message to Jian Nanyu to find out. You're going to be rich this time. Where did that guy come from? He's so rich. Jian Nanyu asked Silver Moon. Of course, Silver Moon didn't answer and continued, how was it? Did you get yourself into a trap? You didn't think he would actually agree, right? If he didn't agree, where would I go to earn money? Jian Nanyu said. Are you serious? Silver Moon asked. What do you think? Jian Nanyu asked. About that? How much would it be if Qianli's drunken equipment dropped? Silver Moon asked. Sorry, I don't accept the business of dropping equipment. Jian Nanyu said. One level would cost 20,000. Even if he accepted the business, he definitely wouldn't be able to pay the sky-high price. Silver Moon just wanted to change the topic and quickly said, about that, if Qianli's sword drops, help me pick it up and I'll pay you 10,000. Silver Moon calculated that if they really started to deal with Qianli's drunken, he and Hongshan Yixiao would be support and wouldn't charge at the front. Water-breaking arrow was a ranged class and wouldn't get close. As for Unsmiler, he would definitely fish in troubled waters and take advantage of the situation. There was also Apple Vinegar, but that kid was known to fight solo so he might not show up. If that was the case, when they killed Qianli's drunken, the people around him would definitely be Jian Nanyu's people. If he dropped equipment, it would obviously fall into their hands. Although Jian Nanyu had solemnly said that he did not want any of the equipment, who knew what would happen when the time came? Silver Moon decided to strike first to gain the upper hand. They would definitely sell the equipment they obtained from robbing others at a high price. They would rarely keep the equipment for themselves. However, Jian Nanyu's reply was, equipment? We won't pick up equipment. Damn it, he's still pretending. Silver Moon cursed in his heart and continued, then help me pick it up and I'll give you 10,000. Silver Moon was putting in a lot of money. He heard that Gu Fei's sword was one of the top 3 godly weapons and had a Dark Knight skill. Silver Moon felt that it was worth it to spend 10,000. At most, he would sell the king's sword and have the money. The king's sword's value was mainly in the team. Silver Moon was notorious now and knew that he might not be able to join any team anymore. Holding the king's sword might make him a target to be hunted down. If it was Qianli's super awesome godly sword, he would become a hero. That would be super cool. Silver Moon even had this beautiful dream, but the reply he received was, I said I won't pick it up. Stop these useless things. What? Too little? Then 15,000. Silver Moon was determined to get it. However, he didn't even get a reply this time. He sent another message and got a reply. The other party doesn't talk to strangers. Fuck! Silver Moon roared. The deal was still in the hands of Jiananyu. He had already paid 2,000 for the deposit. This was all Silver Moon had. If he didn't get the staff back, he wouldn't be able to get money from Hongchen Yixiao. Now that Jiananyu had deleted him, he was going to disappear. Fuck 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 fuck. Silver Moon's expression turned ferocious. No Smiler felt that it was weird but didn't dare to ask. Silver Moon quickly moved to Yi Xiaowu's side and said, "Do you think that Jiananyu is reliable?" Yi Xiaowu looked back at Silver Moon and said, "Why? I've never heard of a deal with 20,000 gold coins. This guy will definitely take the deposit. He won't just take it and run, right?" Silver Moon said, "How do you know the deposit is 10,000? Yi Xiaowu was curious. Silver Moon was startled and didn't hide it. "I've dealt with him before. His deposit is always half." Yi Xiaowu looked at Water-Breaking Arrow and Water-Breaking Arrow said, "Really? But as far as we know, his deposit is always about 20% to 30%. "No, he takes half from me every time," Silver Moon said with certainty. After saying this, he was also startled. When he looked at Yi Xiaowu and Water-Breaking Arrow again, he didn't even smile. He looked at Yi Xiaowu as if he was a tragic person. "He really looks at you differently," Yi Xiaowu said. "Fuck." Silver Moon was depressed. He took less than a third of the deposit from others, but he took half from him. Fuck, fuck, fuck. Silver Moon, this bastard. He's really not a good thing. Jiananyu simply kicked Silver Moon out of his friend list and sighed. "What's wrong?" Glue asked. When Jiananyu said this, Glue immediately agreed. "He's really not a good thing. I've already deleted him from my friend list. After this deal is over, I won't deal with him anymore. Who knows when this bitch will plot against us?" Jiananyu said. "You've deleted him? His deal is still pending. Won't he go crazy?" Glue said. "It's a pity that I can't see his flustered and exasperated face," Jiananyu said. "Aren't you being too impulsive? This guy is capable of anything." Glue said, "I'm afraid of anyone but him. This kind of guy is also afraid. There's no point in being a human. Just thinking about him makes me angry," Jiananyu said. "It's better to be careful," Glue said. "Don't worry. What can he do now? Stir up trouble in front of that Hongchen Yixiao? What a joke. Do you think that Hongchen Yixiao and the others are idiots? Do you think they don't know what kind of trash Silver Moon is? They just want to make use of his perverted skill. It's not his turn to mess up our deal," Jiananyu said. "Then what about his deal? Do you still do it?" Glue asked. It's just against him. It's not against money." Jiananyu said. "Then delete him." Glue said. "It's not like I can't contact him. Let him be depressed," Jiananyu said. "Also, it seems to me that this kid is very afraid of mentioning this deal in front of Red Dust Smile and the others. It's very likely that he's stirred up something. Next time, I'll definitely expose him," Southern Swordsman said. "We might as well go back and make his king's sword drop." Glue said, "Hey, that's a good idea. We're always working for others. Next time we'll be self-sufficient." Jiananyu said, "Oh right." Jiananyu suddenly thought of something. "How did you meet them? Didn't I get drunk with Qianli?" In the end, these three guys were also staring at Qianli when he got drunk. In the end, they noticed me. Glue was very ashamed. 3? Yes. At that time, that water-breaking arrow hadn't arrived yet. After being discovered by them, I was about to tell you guys, but in the end, Qianli suddenly disappeared when he got drunk. Glue said, "I told them about this first. Then that Hongchen Yixiao said he'd call someone to help us deal with it." "How did Qianli disappear when he got drunk? Teleport?" "That Hongchen Yixiao said something like the wind-chasing emblem. It's an equipment obtained from a wanted mission. After completing the wanted mission, it can be used to teleport directly to the wanted mission office." Glue said. "No wonder." Jiananyu recalled. At that time, the place where they fought was near the wanted mission office. So the other party had specially chosen such a place. That was really dangerous. Jiananyu wiped his sweat. At that time, if it wasn't for Glue and Water-Breaking Arrow appearing in time, even if the others could escape, he would still be dead. What do we do now? Glue asked. Let's rest first. Just now, we accidentally killed the slender waist dance. How unlucky. Jianan said gloomily. Glue understood this kind of thinking. They were in a business that offended people, but at the same time, they were very afraid of offending people. For example, now that they had become enemies with Qianli Drunk, and in the end, they took on a business deal with people that Qianli Drunk knew. As soon as drunk Qianli received the news, he immediately came to help. Similarly, now that they lost the slender waist dance, they naturally offended this strong person. But this time, they didn't cover their faces. In the future, there would be a lingering problem that they couldn't get rid of. Achoo achoo. In the tavern, the grieving slender waist dance suddenly sneezed twice. Sitting around the table, Gu Fei and the others looked at the gleaming dagger that slender waist dance stabbed into the table. They all shrunk their necks and didn't make a sound. I'll definitely cut him into 1,000 pieces. Slender waist dance shouted after sneezing. I'll help you. Gu Fei comforted her. Get your gang of scoundrels here. I want to buy people to kill him. Slender waist dance continued to shout. Buy people? Then I'll introduce you to an expert. Gu Fei hurriedly said. Everyone looked at Gu Fei, thinking that he was going to shamelessly recommend himself. 100 years of experience, a professional. Gu Fei said. Slender waist dance was startled. She also thought that Gu Fei was going to recommend her. She didn't think that he would really recommend someone. I was just saying it casually. I want to kill him with my own hands. I'll fight anyone who tries to steal him from me. Slender waist dance said. Chapter 564. Are you going to buy him or not? Gu Fei scratched his head and asked. Slender waist dance squinted at him. Why are you so enthusiastic? What's your relationship with him? Are you trying to get some kickbacks? Who's getting kickbacks? Gu Fei was indignant. This comrade by Jingluan's family is quite poor. He can only use his kung fu to support a few people in the game. I'm saying that we should help him if we can. What kickbacks? Really? Slender waist dance was stunned by his words. Gu Fei nodded with a serious expression. On the side, Boundless Meng was confused. How can he afford to play games when he's so poor? The game equipment in the parallel world was expensive. If one was as poor as Gu Fei described, they shouldn't be able to afford to play. Isn't this a gamble? He can't find work in real life, Gu Fei said. Really? So you're the same? Slender waist dance asked Gu Fei. She knew that Gu Fei and Bai Jingluan were the same kind of people. My situation is better, Gu Fei said. Then why? Slender waist dance kept asking. I have a lot of relatives. Gu Fei wiped his sweat. If he really wanted to analyze why the Gu family was rich and the Gu family wasn't, it obviously couldn't be explained in a few words. He had to go back to the long river of history and start from the family rules of the two families. He had to trace back some changes and opportunities in between. It was very complicated. Gu Fei himself didn't understand it all, so he could only come up with a simple excuse. Oh, relying on charity. Slender waist dance obviously misunderstood a lot of relatives. I guess. Gu Fei thought about it and was too lazy to explain. Then asked Bai Jingluan to come over. He sounds quite pitiful. Slender waist dance was overflowing with sympathy. Okay. Gu Fei quickly sent a message to Bai Jingluan. He thought that the poor guy would be overjoyed, but he didn't expect to receive a very arrogant reply. What? There's work again? I've been really busy recently. Let's see if I can find time to go to your place. Where are you? White Stone City, Gu Fei answered honestly. White Stone City. That was too far. How much time would it take to go there and back? How much? Let me take a look at the price-performance ratio first. Gu Fei was completely choked. They hadn't seen each other for a few days, but from the way this kid talked, he seemed to be living a good life. Just when he didn't know how to reply, Slim Waist Dancer saw Gu Fei's changing expression and asked, How is it? Have you called him yet? He's been pretty busy lately. His business in the game seems to be doing pretty well. On the other hand, Gu Fei was calm and did not feel unhappy because he had been snubbed. After all, he had introduced jobs to Encyclopedic Jinglin in the hope that his fellow kung fu practitioner would not be too down. At that moment, he felt gratified when he saw Encyclopedic Jinglin's thriving manner. "So are you coming or not?" Slim Waist Dancer asked. "It doesn't matter whether I come or not. Even if you don't come, you still have me, right?" Gu Fei laughed. "Are you sick?" Slim Waist Dancer despised him. Gu Fei smiled and no longer explained. Just when he was dealing with this matter as if there was no follow-up, Encyclopedic Jinglin suddenly sent a message to Gu Fei. "Haha, I don't seem to have anything to do these few days. I'll make a trip there. Whitestone City, right?" Gu Fei wiped the sweat off his forehead. Could it be that this brat had always wanted to do this business? Did he deliberately say that to raise his value? After not seeing him for a few days, he had learned to be treacherous and become a businessman. "I shouldn't be able to arrive today. I'll be there tomorrow," Encyclopedic Jinglin said. "Tomorrow is also Xuanwu?" Gu Fei said. There was still a considerable distance between Sunset City and Whitestone City. Encyclopedic Jinglin didn't play for long every day. "There's still time. I'm currently at the pier on the shore of Waterside City. This isn't far from Forest Shade City. Isn't Whitestone City next to Forest Shade City?" Encyclopedic Jinglin replied. "All right then, see you tomorrow," Gu Fei said. After sending the message, he said to Slim Waist Dancer, "He'll be here tomorrow." Slim Waist Dancer was startled. Encyclopedic Jinglin. Slim Waist Dancer clearly thought that this matter had passed. She didn't expect it to come again in just a few seconds. She said in a daze, "Isn't he busy? He's not coming?" He suddenly said he's coming. Gu Fei said helplessly. "Won't you guys break your brains from practicing martial arts?" Slim Waist Dancer asked. Gu Fei was speechless. There were no more words that night. Gu Fei still logged off on time. Although there was still danger in the vast wilderness, no one dared to be careless this time. Eternal Life Among Flowers and a large group of Lan Yi's brothers rented the area outside of the city to train. They weren't afraid of Jian Nanyu making a move again. However, the styles of these two groups were completely different. They didn't see eye to eye with each other. People born in Moonlit Night City had the temperament of immediately fighting each other if they didn't see eye to eye with each other. As a result, after a night of training, internal strife killed 5 people. In the end, the two groups of people died in vain. The two groups continued to train together. Such a strange way of getting along was something that Lan Yi and the other old players had never experienced after playing online games for so long. They were all secretly amazed. Slim Waist Dancer also mingled with them for a while. Halfway through, she slipped away by herself. She wandered around the leveling area, trying to find Jian Nanyu. Unfortunately, she didn't succeed. In fact, Jian Nanyu and the others had seen Slim Waist Dancer that night. However, because of the profession they were in, they were very vigilant. Usually, when they formed a party to train, a large part of Glue's attention was to pay attention to whether there were people with evil intentions approaching them. Before Slim Waist Dancer saw them, she was already discovered by Glue. If it was Silver Moon or Non-Smiler leading the team, this kind of thing was very likely to happen. However, Southern Azure Sword and the others were a professional and disciplined team. If Slender Waist Dance was accompanied by Boundless Mang, they might give it a try. However, if it was just Slender Waist Dance alone, they would choose to avoid it without hesitation. For them, if it wasn't necessary, killing Slim Waist Dancer was simply a waste of time and meaningless thing. The next day, Gu Fei logged on. He first asked Slim Waist Dancer and the others who were online. After everyone reported that they were safe, he went to find Encyclopedic Classics. Encyclopedic Classics had also just logged on. He had just set off from Shady Forest City to Whitestone City. By the time he reached Gu Fei, he would probably be offline again. On the other hand, the 5 members of Child Elite Group had already floated to Whitestone City. After Gu Fei fought with Jian Nanyu and the others last night, he also told the 5 of them that Jian Nanyu was active again. The 5 of them were worried about playing guessing games with Yi Xiaowu and the others in Shady Forest City, so they immediately set off for White Stone City. They spent the second half of the night in White Stone City. In the tavern in White Stone City, there were many tables full of people. Not to mention the nameless cameos of Lan Yi's subordinates and Eternal Life in Flowers, there were already tables full of famous people. Gu Fei was speechless. Comrades, there are only 7 opponents. With such a big show, I won't be able to see them for the rest of my life. After hearing about Gu Fei's arrangement last night, the Han family young master looked at the tavern full of people who didn't even have seats. He said disdainfully, "You're still trying to lure the snake out of its hole in this situation? You're too outdated. Since the other side only has 7 people, it's clear that they want us to bully them with numbers. We shouldn't wait for them to show up now, but we should take the initiative to drag them out." Yes, we should have done this earlier. Lan Yi slammed the table. He had a large group of brothers, but he had to do it alone yesterday. He had long felt that something was wrong, but now that he thought about it, wasn't it the same? They had the advantage in numbers, so why should they show weakness and lure the other side out? What if we scare them away like this? Gu Fei said. If we scare them away, we'll be safe in the vast wilderness, and our goal will be achieved. Brother, you said. That's right. Everyone in the room nodded. Gu Fei was depressed. Clearly, this was a difference in ideology. Everyone's thinking was normal, using force to deter the other side and eliminating the other side's criminal intent in the form of preventive measures. However, Gu Fei's thinking was to lure the other side into committing a crime and then directly eliminate the other side with force. This was why it was said that heroes used force to violate the law. This was indeed very discordant to Gu Fei's ideology. Lan Yi was clearly a man of action. Once he felt that this idea was reliable, he immediately began to assign people. Who was in a group, which area to walk around, and so on. Very quickly, half of the arrangements were made, but there was a very discordant sound. A player raised his hand and weakly said, "May I ask who it is?" Lan Yi was startled, and a bunch of famous people looked at each other in dismay. It was clear that although there were many people in this room, the nameless extras didn't know Jian Nan and the others. They couldn't just put up a sign and say, "Jian Nan, report to me," right? From this, it could be seen that Jian Nan and the others usually kept a low profile and had great foresight. Just like right now, they were about to launch a human flesh search, but most people only heard of their names and didn't know who they were, so they didn't know where to start. Damn. Lan Yi was very depressed. Apart from the few of us, who else can recognize that group of people? Brother, you asked. In the end, apart from the 6 people from the child elite group, there were also Mang Mang, Lan Yi, Fireball, Thin Waist Dance, and Tsubasa Sakuratsuka. There were a total of 11 people. What if we split into 11 groups? Brother, you asked the Han family young master for his opinion. Too few. The Han family young master had a very good understanding of the map. Everyone had a headache. This also showed why talent was the most expensive. At this moment, those who could recognize Jian Nan and the others were talents. The others weren't. They were definitely lacking in talent. Do any of you know how to draw? Draw out their faces. One of Lan Yi's subordinates suggested. Gu Fei was the first to look out the window. The word draw sounded very foreign to him. The 5 people from the child elite group also followed in Gu Fei's footsteps. This job was too technical. Lan Yi and Tsubasa Sakuratsuka didn't say anything. Fireball said in a daze, "If it's a girl, maybe I can do it." Their gazes finally fell on the 2 girls. Everyone felt that since there was no one else, maybe the girls could make do. I don't know how to draw," Mang Mang said hurriedly. "What are you looking at?" "I don't know how to draw either," Thin Waist Dance, who was being stared at by everyone, shouted. "Or one of you can clearly describe it, and I'll draw it." The guy who had just suggested volunteered. Obviously, he had the skill to think of this idea. Gu Fei looked out the window again. Just now, he wanted a good picture, and now he wanted a good writing skill. The scenery outside today was really good. Chapter 565. Other than Gu Fei, who was standing by the window and looking at the scenery, the other 10 people were describing the appearance of Jian Nanyo's group of 7. Gu Fei heard one description after another jump into his ears, but he couldn't put together a single image in his mind. However, the player who was drawing was already moving very quickly. From time to time, he would stop and ask a few questions. He exuded a sense of professionalism. Half an hour later, this person announced that he had succeeded. There were many people behind him watching, and they were all dumbfounded. Lan Yi shot forward like an arrow and grabbed that guy's drawing paper to look at. "Fuck you! What is this? Brother Calabash?" Lan Yi didn't even show the paper to the others. He crushed it into a ball and threw it at that person. That person was very depressed. "What? I don't look like it? Look like your head." Pretending to be an artist, scram to the side. Lan Yi scolded. "Fuck, how can it not look like it?" That person was very persistent. He picked up the ball of paper and opened it, showing it to Sword Demon and the others. Those people were also very curious about what the drawing looked like, so they quickly stretched their necks to see. After seeing it, they were very impressed with this brother's courage. This was no longer a question of whether he looked like it or not. It was a question of whether or not he knew how to draw. With this level of skill, he volunteered to do this job. His courage was really commendable. "Fuck, don't embarrass yourself." As his brother, Lan Yi felt ashamed for him. He rushed up like a hungry tiger, snatched the paper, and tore it into pieces. He looked like he couldn't wait to swallow it. "How is it? It doesn't work, right?" Gu Fei, who was looking out the window, was gloating. Most people didn't recognize Jian Nanyu, so they naturally couldn't bully him with numbers. Thus, he still had to use his old method of luring the snake out of its hole. In the end, the Han family young master quickly destroyed his dream. "Even if this doesn't work, you can't use that method again. Is Jian Nanyu an idiot? He knows it's a trap, but he still jumped into it? You don't say. That's really the case. Yesterday, our intentions were clear enough, yet he still dared to make a move. Don't look down on Jian Nanyu, he's got guts. Other than me, I really don't know what else he's afraid of." Gu Fei said. After all, there were many people in the room who didn't know Gu Fei. When they heard what he said, they all stared at him, thinking that this person was really shameless, bragging so much. However, Sword Demon and the others knew that this was the truth. Slim Waist Dance and the others had experienced yesterday's battle and knew that this was not a lie. When Gu Fei was there, they had been looking around for almost 2 hours. When Gu Fei turned around and left for a few minutes, these guys immediately made their move. The original trap was just for show. Both sides knew what the other was thinking. At the end of the day, it was just a game of hide and seek between Jian Nan's group and Gu Fei. Yesterday was yesterday, now is now. If they knew yesterday that you could use the wind-chasing emblem to directly teleport back to that area, do you think they would still make a move? Han family young master said. "So today we can make some adjustments. This time, we won't use the wind-chasing emblem. We'll use a teleportation scroll. I'll go far away, and you guys can choose the coordinates to lure them out. As soon as they appear, I'll immediately teleport back." Gu Fei said. "Same medicine in the same bottle, we're still playing teleportation. With what happened yesterday, would Jian Nan not be on guard? Everyone knows about teleportation scrolls, so he'll definitely think of it." Han family young master said. "Then he'll have to make a move." Gu Fei said. "Of course he'll make a move, but since he's so afraid of you, then he'll make a move when you're completely gone. If you use a teleportation scroll, can you directly teleport from your bed to the central plaza?" Han family young master said. This time, Gu Fei didn't say anything. His gaming time was really a shortcoming. Moreover, Boundless Mang and the others obviously wouldn't be like him, playing for 3 hours a day. So, from now on, if you want to deal with Jian Nan, then you'll have to take the initiative to find him. If you want him to take the initiative, then you'll have to be offline. Why don't you wash up and sleep first?" Han family young master said. "Why do you make it sound so contradictory?" Gu Fei was depressed. "Then what do you think we should do?" Lan Yi was also impatient. According to Han family young master's words, they couldn't be drawn out passively. If they were to take the initiative, they wouldn't be able to because they didn't have enough people. How could this matter end? Actually, there's a very simple way to solve this once and for all. I just don't know if you're willing to do it. Han family young master suddenly said to Boundless Mang. What way? Boundless Mang asked. Throw away the staff. Han family young master said. Fuck. Everyone looked at him in disdain. Playing the game relied on equipment and skills. Throwing away the equipment for this kind of thing was equivalent to deleting the account. Amongst the disdain, Boundless Mang seemed to have understood something. She looked at Han family young master and said, You mean, correct. Not throw it onto the streets, but throw it to a certain person. Han family young master said. The tavern instantly became silent. It was a very crude method, but it was definitely effective. But at the same time, it poked at the Achilles heel of the game, the problem of trust. Everyone in the tavern didn't say anything. Even though most of them didn't know what kind of staff it was, to be able to get people to fork out money to buy it for looting, it was definitely something rarely seen in the game. Right now, a bunch of people were gathered in this room, all for the sake of protecting this piece of equipment. If Boundless Mang was asked to give it to someone else, would she agree? A portion of them stared straight at Boundless Mang, while another portion stared straight at Gu Fei. The certain person that Han family young master was talking about was obviously Gu Fei. However, this kind of thing was too sensitive. If Boundless Mang refused, it would mean that they didn't trust each other and it would be awkward between the two sides. In order to avoid this kind of awkwardness, it couldn't be better for Gu Fei's side to refuse, especially since Boundless Mang was already hesitating. Boundless Mang's hesitation was unavoidable. After all, she and Gu Fei weren't very familiar with each other. However, when everyone was waiting for Gu Fei to speak, Gu Fei slapped the table and exclaimed, "This is a great idea." Everyone laughed. Those with darker hearts all felt that Gu Fei had the ambition of a wolf. Those who weren't so dark also felt that this guy really didn't know how to conduct himself. In the end, when Boundless Mang saw Gu Fei's appearance, she suddenly smiled and nodded without the slightest hesitation. This is a good idea. She had already taken out the staff, preparing to hand it to Gu Fei. Gu Fei's skills were unfathomable, but his personality was still quite simple. Boundless Mang hesitated for a moment, thinking about this person's various past events. The matter of whether or not to return the equipment actually didn't depend on the relationship between the two, but rather on the other's character. Silver Moon was close enough to her, but what was the result? Gu Fei and she were strangers and even enemies, but he had helped her several times in times of danger. This kind of person, whether or not they were friends, was trustworthy. Boundless Mang had thought of this point and was ready to hand the staff over to Gu Fei without any hesitation. Wait! Han family young master suddenly spoke again. What now? Gu Fei asked. What's wrong with giving it now? This handover ceremony has to be done for Jian Nanyu to see. Han family young master said. There's no need. Boundless Mang said indifferently, the staff isn't on me, so it's not bad to let them work for nothing. How can that be? Gu Fei didn't agree. I have to let him see it, or else he won't come find me. Just give it to me, I'm still waiting to find him for revenge. Slender Waist Dance suddenly jumped out. Go go go, what does this have to do with you? Gu Fei waved his hand. Give it to me, Mang. Slender Waist Dance ignored Gu Fei and went to negotiate with Boundless Mang. This time, Boundless Mang was in an even more difficult position than before. Both of them wanted it, but who should she give it to? What are you fighting for? What's the point of giving it now? If I don't let Jian Nanyu see it with his own eyes, am I supposed to run over and tell him that the staff has been given to someone else? Han family young master said. You don't have to run over, I have his friend. Brother Yu interrupted. You're really humorous. Han family young master expressionlessly glanced at Brother Yu. But how can we let him see it? If he sees it, we might as well just go up and chop him up. Gu Fei said. That's easy, go to the auction house and hang it up for a day. Then, with so many people's mouths, we can just spread the word in the city and he'll know soon enough. Han family young master said. The auction house will only show the auction price, not the buyer. Brother, you said. How could such a small matter trouble a professional like Jian Nanyu? Think about the auction house's transaction process. Han family young master said. Consign it, bid and pick it up at the time. Brother, you said. That's right, the auction time is clearly written there, which means that everyone knows when they can come to pick it up. In order to find out who the buyer of the staff is, Jian Nanyu will definitely keep an eye on the NPC when it's time to pick up the staff. Han family young master said. Oh, what you said makes sense. Brother, you nodded. This way, if Jian Nanyu sees that the staff is in my hands and still wants it, he can only find me in the future. Gu Fei nodded. Who said it's you? It's in my hands. Slender Waist Dance said. It's me. Gu Fei insisted. Slender Waist Dance laughed. What a pity, I can't lose to you no matter what. Gu Fei was stunned for a moment before coming back to his senses. Tears streamed down his face. The place to obtain the staff was the auction house, a place that only recognized money. Although the money would definitely be returned in the end, the rules of the auction house was that the highest bidder would win. If Slender Waist Dance really wanted the staff, who would dare fight against her in a place like the auction house? Seeing that Slender Waist Dance was determined to get the staff, Gu Fei really didn't know what to do. In the end, Han family young master sighed deeply. Say, is it important who gets the staff? Of course. The two said in unison. Anyone can get it, but you two can't. Han family young master shook his head. What do you mean? The two were confused. Comrades, since Jian Nanyu will definitely come to the auction house to see the buyer, why don't we take this chance to get rid of him? Or do you insist on walking past him with your staff, beaming with joy, and then wait for him to find you again? The young master of the Han clan said. The two were stunned. This is just a plan to use the trading panel to lure Jian Nanyu out. It has nothing to do with you two. Always thinking of yourself as the main character, this is an illness that needs to be cured. Han family young master said. Chapter 566. The tavern instantly quieted down again. The players with quick reflexes and good memories had already realized that when the young master of the Han family said, give the staff to a certain someone, this certain someone was really a certain someone. It was just an empty reference, not an actual reference. In the end, everyone thought that the Han family young master's idea was to give the staff to Gu Fei, who Jian Nanyu was afraid of, for safekeeping. In the end, Gu Fei also thought that was what Jian Nanyu meant. At this time, the Han family young master's words were clear. As expected, the staff could be given to anyone but Gu Fei and Slender Waist Dance, because they knew Jian Nanyu and Boundless Mang. Seeing that they were going to the exchange hall to buy Boundless Mang's staff, how could Jian Nanyu not be suspicious? So it was better to do this with unfamiliar faces. Before, the people who knew Jian Nanyu were talents. In the blink of an eye, the people they knew were useless, while the unfamiliar faces became talents. That was why it was said that everyone was born with talent. No one spoke for a moment, and they were all thinking about the feasibility of this plan. In the end, the owner of the staff, Boundless Mang, spoke first. We can try. The Han family young master nodded. After that, find someone you can trust, and everyone pool a large sum of money to give to him. He'll be responsible for buying the staff back. Boundless Mang nodded. It was easy to find someone who could be trusted. Many of Lan Yi's people were companions who had been with her in Moonlit Night City. Although everyone had split up, their relationship hadn't faded. Picking a cleric to do this was the most suitable choice. There's no rush. Let's go sell the staff first. Then the others can go to places like taverns to spread the news. News of top-quality equipment always spreads very quickly, said the Han family young master. Yes. Many people nodded and prepared to do their work. Lan Yi was extremely depressed. He thought that this grandson really didn't treat him as an outsider. He didn't hold back when commanding his brothers. What was even more infuriating was that his brothers didn't have a stance at all. He had never seen them so obedient before. Then I'll go and sell the staff now. He stood up in a daze. She was afraid that she would be attacked by Jian Nanyu if she acted alone, so she went to the auction house surrounded by a group of people. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Even when he was in the limelight in Moonlit Night City, he didn't bring such a big group of people with him. In the auction house, Boundless Mang Mang consigned her ideal magic staff for sale. The price was set at 1,800 gold, which was 200 gold less than the market price that Brother Yu and the other experienced players had estimated at 2,000 gold. It was said to reflect a kind of eagerness to sell. However, the problem was that if he was in a hurry to sell it, he should set a fixed price. For example, he could directly set a price of 1,800 gold. That would be even better. However, he obviously didn't dare to do this, as he was afraid that someone would really buy it. No matter how high you set it, you would still be afraid. Because the world was so big, there were a lot of idiots. As a result, everyone saw him as someone who was anxious to make a move, but was also unwilling to do so. Done. After finishing her work, Boundless Mang Mang turned around and said to the group of people behind her, 24 hours? Han Family Young Master asked. Yes. It's 7:37 now. Everyone will meet at 6:30 tomorrow to make some necessary arrangements. Han Family Young Master announced. Yes. Everyone nodded. Now hurry up and spread the news. Don't be too deliberate. Han Family Young Master waved his hand. Instantly, half of the people dispersed. Lan Yi was once again depressed. In his heart, he was thinking that after this matter was over, he would give these brats a good lesson in ideology and make them deeply aware of who their boss was. This group of impatient brothers was very efficient. The news of a high-quality priest staff being consigned for sale in the auction house slowly spread in Whitestone City. When it came to spreading gossip, it was always good to have a start. After that, there would be professional gossip lovers to spread the news everywhere. After that, a few priest players who received the news all ran to the auction house to take a look. Of course, the ideal staff did not have an undeserved reputation. Just its ordinary attributes were stronger than the staffs used by most priests. Moreover, the skill, Mana Sacrifice, was simply a skill that could recover mana. Currently, priests could only recover HP. With this staff, not only could it recover HP, it could also recover mana. How cool was that? One had to know that having no mana or HP at a critical moment was equally fatal. Although the price of 1,800 gold made many normal players stop, those who knew the industry knew that this price was already considered low. It was definitely a bargain to be able to buy it. However, seeing that there were so many priests gathered in the auction house, everyone could guess why they had come. As a result, those who had no money in their pockets looked at the staff and drooled. Those who had money in their pockets saw that there were many competitors and were in no hurry to make a move. This staff did not have a maximum price, so it was completely meaningless to bid now. Wait until the last 10 minutes of the 24 hours, or even the last minute, when the competition would be the fiercest. After those who knew the time, they had already turned around and left. Instead of wasting time here, it was better to use this time to raise more money. Looking at the situation, this staff might not even be able to be bought for 3,000 gold. No, it might even be 4,000, 5,000. The priest who had left the auction house saw other priests surging out from various streets and continued to rush to the auction house, and became more and more pessimistic. This was the true value of an exquisite equipment. The so-called market price was an evaluation made by everyone based on the comparison of the attributes. However, the greatest characteristic of a truly exquisite equipment was its scarcity. Thus, it would lead to a bidding war. In the end, it would be impossible to predict how much the equipment would be sold for. The same ideal staff might be sold for 3,000 gold this time, or 5,000 gold the next time. This was because the quantity was too small, so small that it was simply not enough to form a fixed supply and demand market. Every time it appeared, there would be a new market, so how could there be such a thing as a market price? The market price that the players spoke of was actually a synonym. It had different meanings at different times. For ordinary equipment, the market price could be understood as the highest price. For truly exquisite equipment, the market price could be understood as the lowest price. At this moment, a large number of priests were heading to the auction house to look at equipment. After looking at it, some of them forgot to go home, while others seized the time to start raising money. The resulting chain reaction was that the players who were used to leveling in random parties discovered that there were surprisingly few priests tonight. At the main city gate, this was the most common area for random parties. Groups of players stared at each other, all because there were no priests in their party, so they couldn't set out to level. What's going on? When these leveling armies asked around, it naturally became a new wave of news spreading. The auction house has consigned an exquisite priest staff for sale. It's called the Ideal Staff, and it has regeneration skills. This message quickly spread throughout Whitestone City. The Ideal Staff? Yi Xiaowu and Broken Arrow heard this news at the same time as they were in the tavern. What? Broken Arrow still didn't know that Yi Xiaowu had been instigated by Silver Moon to buy this staff. This staff has a skill called Mana Sacrifice. It's currently one of the few mana recovery skills. Yi Xiaowu said. Sounds very useful. Broken Arrow said. Very useful. Yi Xiaowu said. Let's go take a look? Let's go. The two of them went to the auction house together. At this time, it had already been 3 hours since Gu Fei had logged off. It was the dead of night, but there were still many priests in the auction house. There were tens of thousands of priests in a main city. People constantly received the news, and people constantly rushed over. The auction house had never been so lively before in Whitestone City. There were many auction tables in the auction house, but at this moment, none of them were empty. In front of each table, there was a group of priests. Yi Xiaowu and Broken Arrow looked at each other, then chose a table with fewer people and squeezed in. On the auction board, the Ideal Staff was impressively listed at the top. Although the majority of players who wanted it calmly waited until the last moment to bid tomorrow, there were also some who casually opened their bids. At this moment, the price had already jumped to 2,217 gold, 58 silver, 40 copper. There were rules for raising the price of items in the auction house. The lowest bid was 10 copper, and there was no upper limit. However, when someone raised the price by more than 10 copper, the lower limit would be refreshed. Yi Xiaowu looked at the current limit. It had already been raised to 1 gold. And in the blink of an eye, the price jumped again, jumping to 2,218 gold, 58 silver, 40 copper. This looks like it won't be easy to get. Broken Arrow looked at the surging priests around him, wiping his sweat. Yes, looking at this situation, buying it isn't just a matter of money. You need a bit of luck. Yi Xiaowu said. That's not necessarily true. You can directly send in 10,000 gold right now. I don't think anyone will raise another 10,000. Broken Arrow laughed. There's no need. Yi Xiaowu also laughed. I've already bought one for 4,000 gold. But Broken Arrow asked. The Silver Moon gang contacted him. Yi Xiaowu said. That brat, is he reliable? Broken Arrow said. What? Is he going to use a fake to trick me? Yi Xiaowu laughed. At most, he, as the middleman, will get a few hundred gold. But look, even if he gets a little sweet, 4,000 gold is still considered cheap. If this continues to rise, there shouldn't be any suspense about it exceeding 4,000 gold, right? There's no suspense. Broken Arrow agreed, but immediately afterwards, he saw the name of the magic staff's seller. He immediately said, Boundless Mang Mang. This is the wife of the previous Silver Moon. Yi Xiaowu also immediately noticed and muttered, could it be that this is the magic staff he contacted for me? It can't be. I heard that the two of them had a very bad relationship. That girl would sell anyone, but not him. Broken Arrow said. I'll ask him. Yi Xiaowu said. How many of these magic staffs have appeared in-game? Broken Arrow asked from the side. How would I know so clearly? Yi Xiaowu said as he sent a message to Silver Moon. The ideal magic staff you contacted, is it the one in the Boundless Mang Mang Mang? At this time, Silver Moon was alone leveling in the wilderness with his face covered. Every minute he stayed in Whitestone City made him nervous, not to mention going to places with many people like the tavern. So when he had nothing to do, he hurriedly ran to the wilderness, specifically looking for the kind of uninhabited leveling area that was rarely visited by people. He painstakingly leveled alone. He didn't know anything about the magic staff that had already spread in the city. Suddenly receiving Yi Xiaowu's message, Silvermoon was shocked. His first thought was that Yi Xiaowu had completely sold him out. He had already said everything that he promised not to say. But this was just a thought. With just one sentence, Silvermoon wouldn't be so shocked that he would confess without being pressed. He immediately replied. One word, one question mark, but it was extremely mysterious. It did not directly admit or deny what Yi Xiaowu had asked. Every word revealed a sense of doubt, hinting for Yi Xiaowu to continue. An ideal magic staff has appeared in the exchange hall. It's being sold by Boundless Mang. Yi Xiaowu immediately explained the whole story. He speculated that Silvermoon had instigated him to buy the staff so that she could get a few $100s as a commission. He did not expect that Silvermoon had actually hired a group of robbers to attack her closest friend. It's this one. How could this woman go back on her word? She said she would sell it to me. Silvermoon pretended to be indignant and once again splashed dirty water on Boundless Mang. At this moment he had another evil idea. In his eyes, Yi Xiaowu was undoubtedly an extremely rich person. After knowing that this was the staff, he would probably buy it from the auction house. As for Jian Nanyu, although he had deleted Silvermoon as a friend, fortunately, Glue and the four of them had added each other as friends yesterday. Silvermoon later contacted Glue and learned that although Jian Nanyu had deleted him, he would still complete the task he had accepted out of professionalism. Otherwise, he would pay the full amount of money according to the rules. Silvermoon knew the rules of Jian Nanyu and the others. As long as they received the deposit, it meant that they had accepted the task. At this time, if the buyer wanted to cancel the task, the deposit would not be refunded. If they canceled the task, they would return double the deposit. Although the staff had been sold, it was not difficult to find the buyer. Of course, Jian Nanyu and the others had to check the buyer if they continued the task. Then they found out that the buyer was Hongchen Yixiao, and then, if he canceled the task, I would have earned 2,000 gold for nothing. If he continued the task, he would even kill Yi Xiaowu. It was none of my business. Silvermoon had this idea, so he directly admitted that it was the same staff. So it's like this. Yi Xiaowu responded and didn't say anything else. Silvermoon felt that there was no need to say any more encouraging words. He was afraid that Jian Nanyu and the others still didn't know that the staff had been auctioned, so he hurriedly contacted Glue. Boundless Mang, the staff has been consigned for sale at the auction house. Do you know? Silvermoon said. There's such a thing? I don't know. Glue said. Hurry up and pay attention. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good if you don't know who bought it. Silvermoon said. Fuck. Just as this message was sent, Silvermoon suddenly reacted and slapped himself. It was a good thing that Jian Nanyu and the others didn't know the whereabouts of the staff. If they couldn't find it and couldn't complete the task, wouldn't they still have to pay? Didn't he achieve his goal? Why did he have to remind them with such a cheap mouth? Fuck, fuck, fuck. Silvermoon slapped herself twice more. Chapter 567. While Silvermoon was regretting her actions, Jian Nanyu frowned when he heard the news from Glue. Ever since they started out, Jian Nanyu and the others had only imagined this kind of situation. They had never experienced it before because they were worried that it would happen, so they would carefully hide their true intentions. But this time, because the opponent had Gu Fei, who knew Jian Nanyu and the others very well, their intentions were completely exposed. This Mang Mang had obviously guessed that the only thing worth dropping from her was the staff. What should they do when this happened? Jian Nanyu and the others had seriously discussed it before. The conclusion was that it was too troublesome, so they had to nip it in the bud. Besides, most people might not have the determination to give up on the high-quality equipment, so they weren't really worried about it. They didn't expect Mang 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 to be so bold, giving up on the high-quality equipment just like that. What should we do? Everyone looked at Jian Nanyu. Obviously, Jian Nanyu's group was much more cohesive than Lan Yi's group. Whenever there was a problem, everyone would look to their boss. I've already received the deposit. Even though it's from that trash Silver Moon, I don't want to compensate her just because we can't complete the quest. Jiananyu said, okay. Everyone was very supportive. When Jiananyu came back and told everyone about it, they were all very angry. She had repeatedly doubted the professionalism of their group. This was too hurtful. Let's go to the auction house first, Horini suggested. Wait. Jiananyu suddenly froze. Everyone looked at him again. Jiananyu nodded. The 7 of them walked back from the leveling area. They passed by a few areas and found that there were fewer people leveling today than usual. Just as they were puzzled, they finally returned to the city gate of White Stone City. It was already midnight, but the city gate was unexpectedly lively. It was obvious that something unusual had happened. However, when the 7 of them paid attention, they found that it was just random parties gathering people to level up. This situation was extremely rare. Because everyone was a random party, they didn't know each other. Not enough people? Then 2 parties would form 1 party, 3 parties would form 2 parties. It would usually be solved quickly. There was no need to wait for a long time. However, at this moment, there were so many parties waiting. Jiananyu and the others paid more attention and finally saw that all the teams were priests. Bro, what's going on? Glue went up to a player and asked. Damn, I heard that there's an exquisite priest staff for sale in the exchange hall, and all the priests have gone there. If you say you want to buy, then bid. If you don't want to buy, then just watch. What's the point of everyone wasting their time there? This person was full of complaints. Is that so? How long have you been waiting here? Glue asked. Almost half an hour. Damn it, there are still several queues in front of us. After listening to his words, Glue paid more attention and found that the teams were still arranged in order. Perhaps the arrival of the priest had caused a commotion, so now everyone was lining up harmoniously. When a priest came, a line would form, and when a priest came, a line would form. You want 2 priests? Today, this is an unrealistic fantasy. He wanted to go back and report the situation to Jiananyu and the others, but he found that they were already in chaos. The players waiting for the priests at the city gate were all anxious. When the 2 great priests appeared, they were immediately surrounded and tried to rope them in. The 2 didn't even say anything, but the others had already started arguing. Damn, what are you fighting for? We agreed to do it in order, someone shouted. Damn, 1 for each priest. Are you trying to rope them all in? There's still 1 more, and it's not your turn. It's our team's turn. Our team. It was fine if the priests came 1 by 1, as everyone had some discipline. Now that 2 suddenly appeared, it immediately caused a commotion. What hadn't Dao Xiangmu and Lin Sensen seen before? This was the first time they had experienced something like this. Being treated like a boss by so many people felt great, and they didn't understand. In the end, it was Jiananyu who spoke up. Everyone, calm down, we're a fixed team. Big brother, your team only has 6 people. 2 priests, that's too extravagant. Let us have 1? Someone saw that Jiananyu seemed to be the boss and immediately came over to curry favor. What? Are you joking? Big brother, we'll hire one of your priests, 50 gold an hour. Jiananyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. We're busy now. What can be more important than leveling up? These people didn't give up. They were already dumbfounded from waiting for the priests. Some even went to instigate Dao Xiangmu and Lin Sensen. Brothers, I see that your team's level isn't high. Some of you aren't even level 40. What's the point of following you? Come with us. It's a 10-man team, all level 41. The 2 of them didn't speak and continued to enjoy the treatment of an emperor. They glanced at Blackwater and Flaming Shirt, the 2 noobs who weren't even level 40. You 2 bastards, say something. Jiananyu was furious when he saw the 2 of them acting so inappropriately at such a crucial moment. He shouted at the 2 of them in the team channel. The 2 of them didn't dare to continue and hurriedly explained to the people surrounding them, there's really something. Since the main character had spoken, the surrounding players tried to persuade them, but they could only leave helplessly. Jiananyu and the others didn't dare to stay any longer. They all left the area where the priests were treated like treasures. Damn, isn't it just selling an exquisite staff? It actually made all the priests in the city nervous? Flaming Shirt said with lingering fear. Just now, a bunch of people had come up to curry favor with Dao Xiangmu and Lin Sinsen. As a little mage who wasn't even level 40, he wasn't treated as a human at all. Some strength-based professions were too heavy-handed. Flaming Shirt was almost pulled to death by so many hands. The value of exquisite equipment is really immeasurable. Blackwater exclaimed. Even Jianan nodded. This is just a staff in the boundless wilderness. If it was Qianli's sword with unknown attributes or Silver Moon's trashy king's sword, what would have happened? TSK, we chose this profession because we have such a bright future. Glue said. Yes. The 7 of them shed tears of happiness. They were proud that they had chosen to rob for a living. The auction house is just ahead. The 7 of them finally arrived near the auction house. Previously, when Jianan Yu and the others were busy getting out of trouble, Glue had inquired about the situation of the staff on consignment and confirmed that it was undoubtedly the ideal staff. In addition, he had also inquired about the time when the staff would be on consignment and the situation that there was no fixed price. The priests who came to the auction house obviously wanted to see the attributes and price of the staff. Jianan Yu and the others didn't care. After arriving near the auction house, the 7 of them paid more attention to the surrounding terrain. This might be a trap. On the way, Jianan Yu suddenly made this hypothesis. A trap? The 6 of them frowned. No matter how I look at it, I feel that the staff has caused a huge commotion. It's only been about 7 hours and it's already spread like wildfire. Don't you think it's a bit exaggerated? Jianan Yu said. Such a high-quality equipment is indeed rarely consigned for sale in the auction house. No one knows what will happen next, Horini said. I know that. But think about it, when such an exquisite piece of equipment appeared in the auction house, everyone who wanted it would try to block the news as much as possible. The fewer people who knew about it, the better. Therefore, the source of the news should only be those who liked to gossip. With their strength, how could the whole city know about it within 7 hours? Don't you think it's a bit strange? Jianan Yu said. It's not just 7 hours. 7 hours is only the current time. I heard that the priests started to get nervous at around 10 at night, Glue interrupted. That's even more obvious. It's only been 2 hours, yet the news spread so quickly. I think someone is purposely spreading it? Jianan Yu said. This isn't hard to understand. For example, the seller. Spreading the news as much as possible to let more people know, Flaming Shirt said. I heard that there's even a post on the forum, Glue said. I know it's possible, but considering the relationship between us and the seller, we have to be careful, Jianan Yu said. What do you mean? There are 2 possibilities. Jianan Yu raised his finger. First, the whole city knows. There's no reason for us not to know. Mang is using this to send us a message. The staff isn't in her hands, so don't look for her. Everyone nodded. If that's the case, then it's good. What's more troublesome is that there's a trap within a trap. If we take this as a possibility, then we have to find out who will have the staff. Then, we have to start monitoring the NPC in the auction house the moment the auction ends. This will give the other party a chance to ambush us. This is the second possibility that we need to worry about, Jianan Yu said. Who would have such a deep calculation? I don't know. The scariest part of this scheme is that even if we suspect it's a trap, we have to act according to his wishes. He knows that we aren't willing to take the risk of failing the quest, Jianan Yu said. Hey, it's just suspicion. Don't make it sound so serious, Glue said. Jianan Yu smiled bitterly. He needs our suspicion. It would be great if we were 100% serious. Then what should we do? Won't it be dangerous for us to go over now? Glue said. We won't go in. Let's observe the surroundings first, Jianan Yu decided. At this moment, the 7 of them arrived near the auction house and walked around the surrounding streets and alleys. I didn't find anything strange. They were all experts at ambushing others. Setting up an ambush was also their forte. At this time, after walking around, they only saw clerics running around. There was nothing strange. The center of the city is wide and there are many streets. If they want to set up an ambush here, the most important thing is manpower. I don't think a guild that isn't rank 4 or above can completely lock down this area. There are only so many streets, can they defend it? Glue came to this conclusion after observing. Chapter 568. It's impossible under normal circumstances, but what if Qianli is drunk? Flaming Shirt asked. Ken and Yoshi glanced at him. He was the one who was most afraid of Qianli getting drunk. Perhaps it was because they were of the same class. Ken and Yoshi did not even dare to raise his head when he walked. Ken and Yoshi patted him on the shoulder and said, Qianli is alone when he gets drunk. He can fight against all 7 of us. Flaming Shirt said. No, I mean we can split up. Ken and Yoshi felt that he should take back his idea. Flaming Shirt was not as afraid of Qianli as he thought. He wanted to fight against Qianli. What he wanted to do was to split up and run. But they have other forces. If we split up, we might not be able to break through, Glue said. That's why we need to sacrifice some people to stall Qianli for a while, Ken and Yoshi said. Blackwater and Flaming Shirt stood up without hesitation. The 2 of them were not LVL 40 yet, so they would not suffer any losses. Jianan Yu's group of 7 was a true team. Every one of them firmly believed in teamwork. A strong team was the principle of true strength. Although the other 5 did not intend to be courteous with the 2 of them, they still expressed their gratitude for their sacrifice. At the same time, they felt sorry for them, but there was no other way. If it was not necessary, why would they sacrifice themselves so cruelly? The 7 of them were solemn, as if they were holding a memorial service for Blackwater and Horini in advance. While they were immersed in their roles, Glue suddenly thought of something. His face lit up with joy and he shouted excitedly, I have an idea. What idea? A brilliant idea, Glue said proudly. That night, the topic of the Mage staff persisted in Whitestone City, and as the news spread on the forums, there were even clerics from other cities who traveled thousands of miles to Whitestone City. Just this distance alone was enough to show the determination of these clerics. This had a huge impact on the priests of Baishur City. Originally, they were competing with a city, but in the blink of an eye, they were competing with the entire world. The price of the magic staff began to crazily soar along with this wave of attacks. The bidding price continuously rose. After grinding for an entire night, they returned to the auction house to take a look. The price had already soared to 3,424 gold, 58 silvers, and 40 coppers. The minimum bidding price had already been raised to 50 gold. The price had increased by so much in one night. This was definitely an unprecedented frenzy of buying. It must be known that the real time to raise the price had not yet arrived. These were just some tentative bids. Just like that, the final transaction price had already reached such a number, and the final transaction price was simply unimaginable. Motherfucker, this is what you call a real top-tier equipment. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka exclaimed. As the #1 trap technician in Cloud City, some of the equipment on him was also known as the best equipment for lurkers, but it was nothing compared to this ideal staff. The simplest example was the auction house's trade panel. Search for the ideal magic staff, and there was only one of it. Search for the name of any top-tier equipment on Tsubasa Sakuratsuka's body, page after page. This shouldn't be called top-tier equipment. It should be called rare equipment, Fireball said. You summed it up very well, Tsubasa Sakuratsuka said. He then looked at the vast expanse of land next to him and noticed that the girl's eyes were a bit blank. He waved his hand in front of her eyes and said, Hey, you're not really planning on selling it, are you? Selling a rare top-tier equipment and exchanging it for a common set of top-tier equipment on the street would increase your overall strength. Many players who cared about EXP would make this choice. However, this type of rare equipment was a symbol of personality. In the game, it was very easy to be the same, and personality was something that was very difficult to pursue. In this vast and boundless world, there was a symbol of personality in front of them, so they clearly didn't want to give it up. Even though they were shocked by the increase in price, and the thought of selling it flashed through their minds. They immediately dispelled it and shook their heads when they heard Sakurazuka Tsuzuka's question. Looking at this situation, we need to gather more money. In the end, we need to offer a sky-high price that no one dares to touch. Otherwise, if we keep raising it like this, we might not be able to snatch it back, Tsubasa Sakuratsuka said. Can you stop talking? Lan-e suddenly said. Am I wrong? Tsubasa Sakuratsuka was baffled. Lan-e angrily winked at his surroundings. Sakurazuka Tsukuzi also reacted. It was indeed inappropriate to discuss these things in public. Fortunately, the auction stage was occupied by their troops, so no one should have heard what they said just now. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka didn't dare to be careless and immediately shut his mouth. Let's go. After saying that, everyone nodded and left the auction house. As they discussed this matter in the channel, they went their separate ways and went offline. That night, when Gu Fei logged on, he immediately received a message from 100 Era's Jinglan. I'm here. Okay. Gu Fei responded and asked where he was. It turned out that this guy had just logged on and wasn't far from the offline area. So, Gu Fei went to pick him up and asked for the location of today's gathering. It was the same tavern as yesterday, and he immediately went there with 100 Era's Jinglan. It was 10 minutes past 6. There were still 20 minutes left from the time when the Han family young master informed everyone to meet. However, more than half of the people in the tavern had already arrived. It seemed that everyone was very enthusiastic about this matter. Almost everyone is here. The Han family young master saw Gu Fei and 100 Era's Jinglan enter. Everyone greeted each other. Lan-e hadn't seen 100 Era's Jinglan before, but after someone introduced him, he said that it was an honor to meet him. 100 Era's Jinglan smiled and said, You're too kind. I haven't seen this brother before. Is he from Baishur City? What's there to take care of? Take care of? Lan-e was confused. For example, someone who made you unhappy. 100 Era's Jinglan gave an example. Lan-e came to a realization. At the same time, he remembered that Gu Fei said that he wanted to hire this guy to kill someone. It turned out that he was really a hired thug. Someone who made me unhappy. Lan-e thought and couldn't help but look at Tsubasa Sakuratsuka. Fuck, why are you looking at me? Tsubasa Sakuratsuka was also very sharp. Hey, the two of you don't seem to have a good relationship. 100 Era's Jinglan looked very interested. Everyone looked at him. Whoever offers a higher price, I can help teach the other party a lesson, 100 Era's Jinglan said. Everyone looked at each other. Hey, are you serious? Is this how you do business? Gu Fei said. What's the problem? 100 Era's Jinglan asked. You should have some principles. At least have a first-come, first-served basis. For example, if Lan-e wants to teach you a lesson first, then go to Bien Yuzi. You actually use this the highest bidder wins method. Is this proper? In the long run, who will trust you and promote you? Gu Fei said. Brother Zue. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka was in tears at the side. He was someone who knew how powerful 100 Era's Jinglan was, so he really didn't like this example. I know that. 100 Era's Jinglan smiled, but now both of them are in front of us. You see how they hate each other so openly. The auction is also giving them a fair chance to compete, don't you think? Now that you put it that way, it makes sense. Gu Fei nodded, then waved his hand at Lan-e and Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and said, You guys continue. Lan-e and Tsubasa Sakuratsuka immediately acted as if they were facing a great enemy. At this time, they didn't know whether it was true or not. They were really afraid that the other party would make a bid, and 100 Era's Jinglan's fist would hit one of them. The two's eyes were fiercely fighting, and their lips were about to move. I'll buy it. Slim Waist Dance suddenly threw a money bag on the table. Which one? 100 Era's Jinglan picked up the money bag and opened it while asking. Soon after he saw the approximate number, he immediately said, This much, I can buy two together. After saying that, he began to roll up his sleeves. Lan-e and Tsubasa Sakuratsuka were shocked. They didn't know how they offended this Missy. Not them. Slim Waist Dance quickly said, It's Gen Nanyu, Do you know him? Oh. Yes, it's him again. 100 eras, Jinglan said. Yes, it's him again. Gu Fei nodded. This time, it's a lot more than the last time. 100 eras, Jinglan glanced at Han family young master. Last time, he ran around and earned a bottle of wine. And your business is flourishing now, you're famous, and your net worth has also increased. Do a good job, I have high hopes for you. Han family young master said. 100 eras, Jinglan was very happy. After putting away the money bag, he got up and rubbed his palms. Okay, where's Jian Nanyu? I'll lure him out tonight. Gu Fei said. Very good. 100 eras, Jinglan sat back in his seat, as straight as a javelin. Han family young master then led everyone to the main topic. Okay, now let's make some preparations. Lan Yi was a bit excited. He hadn't participated in a large-scale PK for a long time. Preparations? Han family young master was confused, then nodded. After clearing the table, he said, if it's convenient, each person can pay 200 gold coins. That way, we won't have to keep track of the numbers. Lan Yi was startled. This is what you're talking about? What else is there? There's still an hour before the auction ends. What's more important than gathering the money? Han family young master asked. Lan Yi was stunned. He turned around like a log. Everyone, gather the money. 200 gold coins. Han family young master shouted again. But someone couldn't help but ask. Didn't I just say it? That way, we won't have to keep track of the numbers. Why do we have to keep track of the numbers? If you don't want to take the money back, then you don't have to. Han family young master didn't even turn his head. He was too lazy to look at this kind of idiot. Remember those who paid, so that no one can take advantage of the situation. Han family young master said to Lan Yi. Fuck, why didn't you say so earlier? Lan Yi was anxious. Many people didn't even come over. They only saw a bag of money fall onto the table. How would they know who paid? Why don't you ask your brothers to all pay? That way, you don't have to keep track of the numbers. Han family young master said. Hey. Lan Yi waved his hand. He didn't want to do such a tiring job. What if you don't have 200 gold coins? There was still this kind of voice. Then your boss will hate you. That's because he needs to record your name and money on paper. Han family young master said. Lan Yi was indeed depressed. He rolled his eyes and shouted, those who don't have 200 gold coins, come to me. Chapter 569. The funds were collected very quickly. Gu Fei and the others also took out 200 gold to show their willingness to participate. Not long after, they had collected 34,624 gold. Lan Yi held onto the account slip, sweating profusely. After confirming that the number of people and the amount of money were correct, he let out a sigh of relief. There's no problem, right? Young Master Han asked when he saw the relieved expression on his face. Lan Yi nodded. Han family young master looked at the time and stood up. It's about time. You're going to complete the transaction? Lan Yi was confused. Han family young master's class was suitable, but didn't they say that they couldn't let faces that were familiar with Jian Nanyu appear? No, there's someone else. Han family young master looked at Boundless Mang. Boundless Mang nodded his head in agreement. Everyone else was confused. It seemed like Han family young master and Boundless Mang were plotting something. Then let's go. Gu Fei rubbed his palms together. How do we arrange people at the revival point? Do we leave a team at each revival point for the 6 classes? Lan Yi maintained the ruthless style of Moonlit Night City. Killing once was not considered killing. If they didn't block the revival point for half a month, they wouldn't know how strong they were. Whatever. Han family young master said. His nonchalant attitude made it seem like this kind of thing was useless. Lan Yi was confused again. It's like this. In the end, it was Boundless Mang who patiently explained to everyone. The auction has to be completed immediately, but we can delay picking up the goods for a week. So I'm planning to store the staff there. Lan Yi was startled. Jian Nanyu and the others must know the whereabouts of the staff, so they have to stay there 24/7 for a week? Boundless Mang nodded his head. So vicious. Lan Yi sighed in admiration. No wonder his position in the guild was lower than Boundless Mang even though he was the vice guild leader. He couldn't just consider the fact that she was the guild leader's wife. Just look at the current plan. Making people waste a week was much more sinister and cruel than blocking the revival point. Does that mean we don't have to fight today? Everyone had been rubbing their palms together the whole night yesterday. They didn't expect such a situation to happen today. There's no need, said the vast Mang Mang. Aren't you going to lure Jian Nan Yu out? Encyclopedic Classics did not know the cause and effect, so he did not quite understand what was going on. However, he could tell that there would not be any fights today. I didn't say that, replied the Han family young master. Bai Yanjing looked at Gu Fei, and Gu Fei said solemnly, there's a change of plans. Then, just as the Han family young master was about to say something, someone burst through the door and yelled, "Bad news!" Lan Yi turned around and saw that it was one of his brothers. He immediately got angry. Why are you only here now? It's not like I won't return the money. Do you need to hide? No, something has happened, the man shouted. What is it? Asked the others. There are a lot of people at the auction house. The man said. Everyone waited quietly, waiting for him to continue. But after he said that, he was gone. Lan Yi was about to scold him, but the Han family young master's expression suddenly changed. Oh no, what is it? The others looked at him. If there are too many people, I'm afraid I won't be able to get the auction stage now, said the Han family young master. Aya. Everyone reacted. They had actually neglected such a cruel and realistic problem. Let's go, Lan Yi yelled. A large group of people rushed out of the tavern. The vast Mang Mang was even more anxious. It was obvious that if they couldn't get the auction stage, it would be useless no matter how much money they had. The staff was really going to change owners. Everyone rushed to the auction house. With just one glance, they felt that the situation was hopeless. Every auction stage in the auction house was like a bus during rush hour. It was packed to the point of bursting. Although there seemed to be gaps between the people, it was just the air wall that the system had set up in the safe zone to limit the players' contact with each other. Moreover, although the auction house and trading house didn't have the offline save function, they were even safer than the offline zone. In these two areas, players could not even use their skills. Even the bounty quests in the offline region, which were unrestricted, were sealed here. There was really no way to enter such a crowded place at this moment. This kind of problem suddenly appeared in the game. Even the Han family young master had forgotten about it. After all, this kind of problem wouldn't appear in traditional games. No matter how many people there were, they could just use the shortcut button to block it. How could there be a situation where people couldn't enter a room? Looking at this scene, everyone could only stare at each other helplessly. The auction house was in an uproar. Because they couldn't do anything, everyone used their mouths to their advantage and cursed endlessly. Gu Fei and the others circled the auction stage twice and discovered that there were many people like them who were unable to come into contact with the auction stage due to this situation. At this moment, other than frowning and cursing, there was nothing they could do. In this super safe zone, even someone as strong as Gu Fei was no different from a level 0 noob. What do we do? Everyone was asking this question. Misty Meng looked at the time. There were only 20 minutes left until the end of the auction. From the looks of it, we might not be able to get the staff back, but we'll definitely be able to sell it for a high price. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka had already started to comfort her. Yeah, I'll buy everyone a drink after I sell it. Misty Meng was smiling, but everyone could see that her smile was forced. This girl was undoubtedly a person who valued relationships. She treated people and items the same. The staff that had been with her for so long was about to change owners. No amount of money could make up for her reluctance to part with it. As for the value of the equipment itself, it was just an increase in her reluctance to part with it. Lan Yi couldn't stand it anymore. He took a large bag of gold and went to find someone to discuss with. He wanted to buy a way out. In the end, the people in the outermost circle were also frustrated because they couldn't get in to buy the staff. They only said one word to Lan Yi, Fuck off. Who dared to come and buy the staff? Which one of them was short of money? Lan Yi's method had already been used by someone before. That person had used his money to open a bloody path, but the innermost players who were touching the auction console refused to let him go. This was equivalent to spending a lot of money to buy a good spot in the front row to see who was bidding. Their mood couldn't be any more depressed. Lan Yi fumbled around a few times. After hearing about this legend, he didn't dare to use this method again. He came back dejectedly and shook his head at Misty Mang. Misty Mang didn't say anything. She only sighed and turned to Gu Fei and the other experts. Go pick up the goods and see if there are any of Jian Nanyu's people. It was clear that the situation had gone out of control. They could only put on a show and lure Jian Nanyu's people out. Wow, are you kidding me? Such a high-quality magic sword, I'll pay 3,000 gold. Suddenly, there was a roar. Everyone turned around and saw that it was Fireball making a ruckus. On a high platform in front of him, Gu Fei had set up a stall and was calmly inserting his Night Streamer sword into the ground. Fireball's shout attracted the attention of a few people around him. After curling their lips in disdain, they couldn't help but glance at the Night Streak sword in the stall. The properties of the items set up in the stall were automatically made public. Once these people saw it, they couldn't take their eyes off it. In addition, Fireball continued to shout, sell me, and attracted a few more people's gazes. Most of the people who came to the auction house to buy their ideal staff were priests, but there were also other classes. The Night Streak sword's magic damage was shocking, and its physical damage far exceeded the current level of a level 40 equipment. It was extremely tempting to many classes, including the few Night Priests. As soon as they saw it, several mages and warriors immediately surrounded it and shouted, how much? Perhaps they were asked by their friends to buy their ideal staff, but seeing that they couldn't get a chance to bid, suddenly there was a piece of equipment that suited their class and was far stronger than their ideal staff. How could they not go crazy? Gu Fei immediately became excited and shouted, I can't squeeze into the auction stage, so I'll auction it here. Whoever wants it, shout louder. 3,000, 3,000. Fireball, who was closest to the stage, continued to shout. 3,000 my ass. Someone looked at Fireball in disdain. Such a high-quality weapon, 3,000 was an insult. I'll pay 3,100. He shouted. Everyone thought he was amazing, but they only raised the price by 100 gold. 3,300, 3,400, 3,500, 4,000. The price was higher and higher. Gu Fei didn't care if there were people like Fireball who were just shouting for fun. When he heard a higher price, he immediately repeated it loudly. In a short while, the price had already surpassed the ideal staff that attracted the attention of priests all over the world. The players who were originally focused on the auction here thought that the noise around them was just a farce, but when they heard that the price had actually surpassed their exquisite equipment, they couldn't help but look back. After all, the Night Streamer was a combat weapon. The priest players could still remain calm, but the other players couldn't sit still when they saw this. This was especially true for the non-priest players who were fighting fiercely for their ideal staff. Most of them had been asked by their friends or wanted to increase their own chances of getting the staff. At this time, their purses were bulging, and a piece of equipment that was even better than their ideal staff appeared behind them. It was as if 100 claws were scratching at their hearts, making them itch. The price continued to rise higher and higher. It was much more intense than the system auction at the console, and the speed at which the price was rising was also faster. It seemed that someone was already bidding in RMB and inviting the seller to the exchange. This was an opportunity that couldn't be missed. With this thought in mind, many people finally gritted their teeth and abandoned the fight for their ideal staff. They turned around and rushed towards the swarming crowd, waving their hands and hoping that the seller would see them. Their mouths were also shouting out high prices. Some people felt that the seller wouldn't be able to hear them if they were too far away, so they took out a piece of paper and wrote a number on it, then raised it high on their weapons. Good. The brother over there has already bid 9,700. Is there anyone who wants a higher price? As Gu Fei shouted, he looked down and noticed that the priest in charge of buying the ideal staff had already seized the opportunity and, with the help of the crowd, grabbed a spot on the auction stage and gave him a thumbs up. Chapter 570. Gu Fei's goal had been achieved, and he immediately sent out a message. The person who received the message also understood tacitly. She, who had been waiting for a long time, leaped onto the stage where Gu Fei was standing, raised a bag of money and shouted, "I'll pay 20,000. Silence reigned. Ever since the staff was put up for sale yesterday, the auction house had not been quiet. As the auction of the sword neared its end, it was supposed to be the most exciting moment. However, it suddenly became extremely quiet. It was so quiet that everyone could hear their own breathing. 20,000. Someone pinched his thigh. He wanted to know if this was a dream. Everyone's attention quickly shifted from the Dark Knight streamer to the person who bid 20,000. Red Spectre, Rogue, Female, 20,000 gold. All the characteristics matched. Everyone immediately thought of a legendary name, Slender Waist Dance. Therefore, the players who wanted to question whether this woman was a troublemaker shut up. The players who had more than 20,000 gold in their pockets and wanted to continue bidding shut up. Some players who wanted to cause trouble and bid recklessly even though they had no money in their pockets shut up when they thought of the rumors about this woman's violent nature. Everyone silently watched the woman stand high up on the stage, waving her money pouch and looking down at the players. 20,000 gold, is there any higher bid? Gu Fei spoke. He was still immersed in his character. Fuck, 20,000 gold, and you're still not satisfied? Some people started to coax Gu Fei. Some even threw trash at him. Fortunately, the super safety zone was restricted by the system. The people could only throw the trash, but they could not throw the items in their hands. Is there no higher bid than 20,000? Is there no more? 20,000 going once. Gu Fei shouted. Going twice. Going thrice. Deal. The beauty is yours. Gu Fei led the applause. No one responded. Everyone was extremely jealous. Who would be happy for someone else who had bought an exquisite equipment? Everyone watched as the two of them exchanged the items. This was the only interaction that could take place in the super safety zone. Everyone's heart was bleeding. Apart from the Han family young master and the others who knew that this was just a show, there were others who weren't paying attention to this shocking deal. Yi Xiaowu and Cutting Water Arrow immediately rushed to the auction house after learning that the ideal magic staff was being auctioned yesterday, and it was the one in the vast expanse. For the whole night and day, Yi Xiaowu was the only one who never left the auction console. Is there a need to do this? Broken Water Arrow didn't understand his madness, and he also noticed that Yi Xiaowu only bid intermittently. Most of the time, he paid full attention to the changes in the price, and from time to time, he recorded something in his notebook. If you don't do your homework, how can you have a 100% chance of getting the staff? Yi Xiaowu said. What do you mean? Water-breaking Arrow didn't understand. Look, Yi Xiaowu continued to stare at the auction panel without blinking as she explained to the water-breaking Arrow. Although it shows that the staff will be put up for sale for 24 hours, it doesn't show when it starts, when it ends, and how much time is left. According to the information we got, we only know that the staff will be put up for sale around 8 o'clock in the evening. In other words, this auction not only requires enough money, but also enough luck. Only when the bid reaches your hand at the end of the auction will you have the chance to get the staff. Oh, you're trying to calculate the exact auction time of this staff? Water-breaking Arrow asked. How is that possible? What I'm doing now is to grasp the pattern of the staff's price jumping and refreshing. This will ensure that my bid will be higher than all the competitors at the most timely moment. Yi Xiaowu said. There's a pattern? Water-breaking Arrow didn't understand. Under normal circumstances, there isn't, but there should be now. Yi Xiaowu said. I don't understand. Water-breaking Arrow said. Let me put it simply. On the surface, the auction panel seems to refresh very quickly, but in fact, there is a fixed interval. The time is 1 second. In other words, within a minute, the price will at most jump 60 times. It can't be more. However, if there are more than 60 prices appearing at the same time in 1 second, the system can't possibly flash all 60 prices in 1 second. It will directly process it behind the scenes, filter out the highest price, and display it on the panel in the next second. However, in this extremely competitive situation, one situation will definitely happen. What situation? More than 2 players will post the exact same price. Yi Xiaowu said. That's right. What will happen if that happens? The system will filter according to the time. The first bidder will get the right to bid, and the other players will get a system notification that they failed to bid. Yi Xiaowu said. I understand. But what's the pattern you want to grasp? It's this. I want to grasp the system's delay in checking the same price. For example, when the auction panel shows 3,000 gold, in reality, the system is already calculating the next batch of bids of 3,100 gold. If I can grasp this delay and bid accurately, I can guarantee that my bid will always be in the lead. Yi Xiaowu said. Is that possible? Although you used the word delay, all of this actually happens in 1 second. Water-breaking arrow said. That's why I'm working hard from now on. Yi Xiaowu said. Is there anything I can help you with? Water-breaking arrow asked. It's good to have a stopwatch. Yi Xiaowu said. Is there one in the game? Then work hard. Water-breaking arrow said and didn't say anything else. The above conversation was done through private chat. On the surface, the two of them were focused on the auction panel, as if they were one with the surrounding army of buyers. In order to grasp the difference between the 1 second delay, Yi Xiaowu didn't rest for the entire day. Especially when he thought about how the buying would only really start after 7 at night. At that time, the prices would be refreshed and some unexpected situations would be far from what they were now, so he didn't dare to be negligent. In the end, he didn't encounter the awkwardness of Gu Fei and the others not having a place to participate in the auction. When Water-breaking arrow came again at night, he had no place like Gu Fei and the others. He could only walk around the auction stage where Yi Xiaowu was. There were too many people in the auction house, so he and Gu Fei didn't notice each other until Gu Fei suddenly jumped onto the stage and shouted at the top of his lungs. Water-breaking arrow suddenly noticed and immediately sent a message to Yi Xiaowu. Qianli Drunk is auctioning his night streamer sword. Yi Xiaowu studied for a day and a night. Just as he expected, after 7 at night, a large number of players swarmed to buy the staff. The situation was much more serious than it was during the day. Yi Xiaowu had been mentally prepared for this. All the auction tables were working at full capacity, and he was well aware of the number of people that could be accommodated. Everything was within his calculations, but he did not dare to relax in the slightest. He was completely focused on bidding against the crowd, and was completely unaware of the things that Gu Fei had revealed behind him. When he gradually felt that it was easy, Yi Xiaowu breathed a sigh of relief and opened the message that had been flashing for a long time. Qianli Drunk is auctioning his night streamer sword. Water-breaking arrow sent this message 5 times. But Yi Xiaowu was surprised because it wasn't on the trading panel. Behind you. Water-breaking arrow finally waited for Yi Xiaowu's reply. Yi Xiaowu quickly turned back and saw the scene of Slim-Waisted Dance jumping onto the stage and bidding 20,000 yuan to buy the night streamer sword. Yi Xiaowu was stunned. He recognized that it was Slim-Waisted Dance. Didn't she and Qianli Drunk know each other? What was going on? The appearance of Slim-Waisted Dance was an unforeseen event for Yi Xiaowu. If it weren't for this scene, he would definitely bid for the night streamer sword at all costs. For him, the road to harmony with Gu Fei would be half completed if he accepted this super-class crossing weapon from Gu Fei. However, the appearance of Slim-Waisted Dance made him realize that there was a chance here, so he remained calm and collected. You don't want to continue the auction? The auction outside had ended, but Water-breaking arrow found that Yi Xiaowu was still absent-minded, so he quickly sent a message to remind him. Yi Xiaowu calmed herself down and continued to focus on the auction. In the crowd, Glue and Flaming Coat, who had witnessed this transaction, reported it to Jianan and the others as important news. The terrifying attributes of the night streamer sword terrified Gu Fei's enemies. It was not hard to imagine that Gu Fei's instant kill damage was supported by this weapon. Now that he was going to sell the sword, it was great news for them. However, good times did not last long. After Slim-Waisted Dance jumped onto the stage and bought the Night Streamer sword, Glue and Flaming Coat were greatly disappointed. They sighed in unison, "Fuck, what a shameless couple." What's going on? Jiannan and the others who were listening to the broadcast couldn't analyze the actual content of this sentence. Slim-Waisted Dance bought his weapon in the end, the two said resentfully. What's going on? What's their purpose? Jiannan frowned. I don't know. Flaming Coat and Glue certainly couldn't guess that the purpose of Gu Fei's auction was to attract attention and help their members snatch the platform. Let's not worry about it for now. You two keep an eye on them. Should I expose them? Horny suddenly had an idea. So what if we expose them? What kind of grudge can we have against them? Don't bother with meaningless things. Just keep an eye on them, Jiannan said. Sigh. Flaming Coat let out a deep sigh as she couldn't find a chance to defeat Gu Fei. Actually, both of you can come today. There are so many people at the auction. If you blend in with the crowd, no one will notice you. The two chatted while keeping an eye on the NPC who sold the item. Fuck. All of a sudden, the auction house was thrown into chaos. Loud curses could be heard everywhere, and the auction for the magic staff had officially ended. The players who did not manage to buy it vented their depression in time, like gamblers who had lost a bet. Of course, they hoped that they could spend their money. How did it go? The Water-Breaking Arrow and Boundless Mang both sent messages to their buyers at the first possible moment. Chapter 571. Water-Breaking Arrow sent the message, but there was no reply. He already realized that the situation might not be good. The players who finished the auction scattered. Water-Breaking Arrow sailed against the current and forced his way to the front of the auction stage. He saw Yi Xiaowu petrified like a statue, his eyes still staring at the auction board. Suddenly he turned his head and began to look around. He saw Water-Breaking Arrow next to him and randomly greeted him, then pushed him aside and squeezed out of the crowd. You didn't get it? Water-Breaking Arrow quickly caught up. Yi Xiaowu nodded with a dark face. What happened? Water-Breaking Arrow asked. There won't be a problem with my bid, Yi Xiaowu said with certainty. He had already figured out the pattern and rhythm. Every time the auction board would show the price he offered, and he didn't receive a failed bid notification from the system. This was the best proof. Every single one of his bids was successful, including the last one. Then what happened? Water-Breaking Arrow was puzzled. There is only one possibility. In the last wave of bids, someone raised the bottom line. Raising the bottom line meant that the price was higher than everyone else. In this case, the time was no longer a problem. The system directly chose the highest price to show, and other bids wouldn't be judged as failures, because they were only equivalent to being replaced by a higher price in the auction. Because of this, Yi Xiaowu was sure that his last bid wasn't a failure, but was erased by a higher price. That's really unlucky. Water-Breaking Arrow sighed. This kind of situation didn't happen in the previous bidding, but it happened at the last second. It's hard to believe that this is a coincidence. Yi Xiaowu said. If it's not a coincidence, then what is it? No one knows when the auction will end. Water-Breaking Arrow said. Someone knows. Yi Xiaowu said. Who? The seller. Water-Breaking Arrow suddenly understood. Indeed, the only person who could know when the auction would end was the seller. Maybe after she finished the auction, her friend wanted it, so she told her friend the specific time and helped her friend successfully buy the staff. Water-Breaking Arrow guessed. Accurate to the second? If she didn't have the intention, would she deliberately remember it so clearly when she consigned it? Yi Xiaowu said. If that's the case, what the hell is going on? Water-Breaking Arrow was confused. I don't know. Let's take a look. Yi Xiaowu looked around as she walked. At this moment, the auction house was like a movie theater that had just ended. There were players everywhere. Yi Xiaowu wanted to go to the pickup area to see who had bought the staff, but a crowd had already gathered there. Although their feelings were not as complicated as Yi Xiaowu's, The crowd was very united in their curiosity. The flaming cloak and glue blended in with the crowd. They really liked this situation. Firstly, it would be hard for him to be discovered. Secondly, the player who had come to retrieve the staff would definitely be very conspicuous. If he was lucky, he might even be able to find out more about this person. In the end, layers and layers of people waited anxiously, but no one came to pick up the goods. Occasionally, 2 or 3 people would appear, causing everyone to be excited. However, they were all normal auction players, and the items they were bidding for were not ideal staffs. The seller, on the other hand, appeared out of nowhere and took away her big bag of gold coins in satisfaction. "Where is he? Why isn't he showing up?" Flaming Cloak mumbled. Everyone knew that the items sold in the auction house could be kept for 7 days. However, for a top-grade staff that was bought through such intense bidding, it was only reasonable that the buyer couldn't wait to take it out and try it out, right? However, the buyer didn't show up today, which made everyone very anxious. After more than 10 minutes, many players lost their patience and left one after another. Seeing that there were fewer and fewer people around them, Glue and Flaming Cloak looked around more and more diligently. "Where is Qianli drunk? Is he still there?" Flaming Cloak asked as she looked around. "I didn't see him." Glue was also looking around. The number of players in the auction house gradually decreased, to the point where everyone could be seen at a glance. The two of them looked around, but in the end, they could not find Gu Fei. Previously, when Gu Fei ended the auction, the two of them had wanted to continue watching his movements. However, at that time, there was a sea of people, and it was as if Gu Fei didn't notice them. It wasn't that easy for them to watch Gu Fei. "Don't be careless. Qianli drunk did show up. Maybe someone new is watching us," said Glue. Flaming Cloak nodded and continued to be vigilant. Suddenly, she noticed something and pulled Glue away. "Look, 2 people seem to be watching us." Glue looked back and was stunned. He recognized that the 2 people were Yi Xiaowu and Broken Arrow. Flaming Cloak had never seen them before, but he knew that they were the bosses of their next big deal. Not only could he make money, but he could also vent his anger on Thousand Miles Drunk. Horini was very happy with this business. After hearing about the glue, he immediately waved at the 2 people enthusiastically. Yi Xiaowu and Broken Arrow also recognized Glue, and they walked over. Glue wanted to ask them why they were here, but when he saw Yi Xiaowu paying half of his attention to the NPC who sold the goods, he immediately realized their intention. "Brother, you didn't get the staff?" Glue asked even though he already knew the answer. Yi Xiaowu shook his head. "Many people bought it. It was luck," Glue comforted him. "Maybe it was luck, or maybe the seller bought it," said Yi Xiaowu. "What do you mean?" Both Glue and Flaming Cloak's faces changed. "With my skills, there shouldn't be such a coincidence that someone would offer a higher price than me, unless the seller knew in advance when the auction would end and took advantage of that second to buy the staff back at a much higher price," Yi Xiaowu said. "Skill." Both Glue and Flaming Cloak were distracted. They didn't know that skill was important in auctions in the parallel world. Yi Xiaowu obviously didn't want to explain. He just looked at the NPC and muttered, "The person who bought the staff hasn't shown up yet, that?" Glue said carefully, "What do you think is the possibility that the seller bought the staff?" 99%, Yi Xiaowu said after looking at Glue. "That's not 100%. Flaming Cloak said, "Maybe it's a coincidence. After all, luck couldn't be explained by science." Glue and Flaming Cloak didn't dare to ignore this unexpected information, so they quickly contacted Jiannan. "Danan, we met Hongchen Yixiao, and he said that there's a 99% chance that the staff was bought by the seller." "What proof does he have?" Jiannan asked quickly. "He didn't say, but I don't think he's lying," Glue said. "So it's really a trap," Jiannan said. "But we didn't see Qianli drunk and the others around," Glue said. "Didn't they show up before? This proves that they were just there. This must be a trap. Let's leave," Jiannan said. "Should we wait and see? Even if it's a trap, we have to figure out who has the staff." Glue said, "Since it's confirmed that it's a trap, the staff will eventually return to Mang Mang's hand." We can continue to pay attention to this woman, Jian said. That makes sense, but we'd better wait here and see what tricks they have up their sleeves. It's safe here anyway, Glue said. That's fine, Jian said. In order to make the trap more believable, Glue asked Yi Xiaowu how he was sure that it was the seller who bought the staff. Yi Xiaowu didn't explain in detail like he did to Broken Water Arrow. He only said that there would be a difference between a successful bid and a failed bid when there were many people bidding. He knew the pattern. The bids were always successful, but the last bid before the end of the auction was directly buried by a higher bid. So he was very suspicious of this coincidence. Hearing this, Glue and Flaming Cloak immediately felt that Yi Xiaowu's deduction was very reliable. Before the end of the auction, no one had raised the bottom line, but this happened 1 second before the end of the auction. It was too much of a coincidence, and it was worthy of 99% suspicion. He sold it and bought it himself. What is he doing? Yi Xiaowu said. Glue and Flaming Coat looked at each other and didn't say anything. When Qianli was drunk, he auctioned his sword, but in the end he also bought it from his own people. What kind of trick is he playing? Broken Water Arrow was also thinking. Glue and Flaming Coat didn't know the answer either. The four of them frowned and thought hard. Glue and Flaming Coat knew half of it, but why did Qianli play such a trick when he was drunk? The two of them thought so hard that their heads hurt. At this time, Gu Fei and the others were no longer in the auction house. When Gu Fei jumped onto the stage and started to attract the attention of most people, Lan Yi left the auction house with a large group of people. They weren't supposed to appear in the auction house, but because they suddenly realized that there would be no place to auction, they all ran over in a hurry. At this time, seeing that Gu Fei's method was very likely to work, Lan Yi hurriedly called for everyone to leave the auction house, leaving only the clerics to buy the swords. Qianli's method is very likely to work, but he will be exposed. Jian Nanyu and the others may be in the crowd. When they see him appear at this time, they may realize that this is our trap. Brother Yu was very worried. How meddlesome! The young master of the Han family had a dark expression on his face as he spat out unhappily. But if we don't do this, we won't be able to get on the stage. Brother Yu said. So what? Han family young master said. Brother Yu was startled and stopped walking. Han family young master turned back to look at him. Brother Yu said slowly, I was thinking, you usually don't let go of any details. How could you be so careless as to ignore the fact that there will be a lot of people in the auction house at this time? Of course I know this kind of thing. You want to make the act real. You really want to use the vast and boundless magic staff as bait to lure Jian Nanyu. Jian Nanyu isn't stupid. This is the only way he will fall for it. Han family young master said. Chapter 572. The plan is going smoothly. At this time, Lan Yi swayed in front of the two of them. The one who had bought the staff was his subordinate. Although Boundless Mang had informed him of the exact auction time, it was still not easy to accurately bid for it at the last moment. Furthermore, under such difficult circumstances, they still managed to snatch the auction stage. Lan Yi felt that his brother had made a name for himself this time, and his heart was a lot more relieved. Although Lan Yi felt a little embarrassed when those guys surrounded Gu Fei and asked to admire his world-shaking sword, but the attributes of 8,000 Miles Drunk's Dark Streamer sword were too abnormal. Even Lan Yi himself couldn't help but want to admire them a few more times. Smooth my ass. Han family young master was still in a bad mood. Lan Yi had actually run over to praise the plan. Naturally, he had bumped into the horse's foot. What's wrong? Lan Yi was puzzled. With that guy causing a ruckus, how could Jian Nanyu fall for it? Han family young master pointed at Gu Fei, who was surrounded by Lan Yi's brothers. At this time, even Fireball, who had been fortunate enough to use the Night Streamer sword, was surrounded by a small group of people. Lan Yi obviously knew what causing a ruckus meant. He said helplessly, there's nothing we can do about it. Luckily, Brother Qianli thought of this method to divert the attention of many people. That's how we were able to take advantage of the chaos and snatch the auction stage. Otherwise, all of this would have been for nothing. The Han young master solemnly patted Lan Yi's shoulder. Big brother, let me give you a reminder. Right now, we are still working for nothing. Lan Yi was startled. Wasn't that the case? Fireball had hurriedly bought the staff back, but everyone had already forgotten why the staff had to be put up for sale. From this point of view, not being able to successfully lure Jian Nanyu into the trap meant that everyone had nothing better to do than to put the staff up for sale. Then they managed to buy it back. In the end, they had paid the system a fee and received a heartbeat of memories. Lan Yi really didn't want to admit that his side's attempt to buy back the staff was pointless. He tried to explain in a positive direction, at least we didn't lose the staff. If it was just for this, why would we put it up for sale? Han family young master said. Maybe Jian Nanyu and the others will fall for it. Lan Yi said. Han family young master looked up at the sky. If only he was as stupid as you. What did you say? Lan Yi was furious. He had a bad impression of the Han family's young master to begin with. It was only because they had a good time working together that he felt a little like, no discord, no concord. But now, it seemed like the good cooperation was just his own wishful thinking. The other side clearly thought that the cooperation was a failure. Jian Nanyu won't fall for it. You guys continue to protect Boundless Mang Mang and her magic staff. The Han clan's young master said word by word. You think we can't protect it? Lan Yi was furious. You. Han family young master glanced at Lan Yi with disdain. If it wasn't for Qianli, you wouldn't even be able to get back the staff, and you still want to protect it? You were the one who thought of the plan. Why didn't you predict this beforehand? There were so many people that there were no seats at the auction. It was everyone who had overlooked this situation, not just the young master of the Han family. Lan Yi originally had no intention of blaming anyone, but the young master of the Han family's disdain had poked his sore foot. For a moment, he couldn't find any powerful counterattack, so he could only take advantage of this situation to make a fuss. Brother Yu realized that the situation wasn't looking good and was about to try and smooth things over. However, Han family young master said disapprovingly, how could I have overlooked this? I just wanted to sell Boundless Mang's staff in this situation and make it look real to lure Jian Nanyu. Over. Brother Yu looked up to the sky and let out a long sigh. When he realized the true intention of Han family young master's plan, he had been carefully thinking that he couldn't let anyone else know about it. Who would have thought that Han family young master would say it out so casually? Moreover, it didn't seem like he was forced or impulsive at all. It was completely because Lan Yi happened to mention this matter, so he naturally said the truth. What did you say? Lan Yi was deeply stunned this time. It was obvious that the impact of this fact was quite big. The previous disdain could be treated as a quarrel between comrades, but this was enough to turn friends into enemies. Unfortunately, it failed. Han family young master spread his hands and continued to look disapproving. Brother Yu was on the verge of crying. This guy's arrogant narcissism was too annoying. Why did I have to appear in this place at this moment? Where's Sword Demon? Where's Qianli? Where's Yu Tian? Where's Unscathed in battle? Why isn't this group of grandsons here? Why am I the only one here? The two at the center of the incident didn't react, but Brother Yu, who was watching from the side, was already in a mess. What did you say just now? Say it again. Lan Yi said word by word. Han family young master turned around and walked away. Just as Brother Yu knew, Han family young master didn't say this out of anger or impulsiveness. It was just that this guy didn't care about other people's feelings and carried on with the conversation. At this time, Lan Yi's "say it again" was definitely seen as a meaningless request, so he ignored it and walked away. Stop right there. Lan Yi chased after him angrily. Brother Yu hurriedly interrupted. Brother Yu wanted to say, don't misunderstand, these are all words said out of anger, to help Han family young master. In the end, he thought that Han family young master definitely wouldn't agree with his good intentions. He would most likely stop and turn around to look at him in disdain and say, words said out of anger? Are you an idiot? Thinking up to this point, Brother Yu actually didn't say anything after saying that twice. When Lan Yi saw this scene, he knew that everything was true. He shouted, "Stop!" and raised his hand, chanting again. A bolt of lightning streaked down from the sky and struck in front of the Han clan's young master. Lan Yi was startled. It looked like the Han family's young master had listened to his "stop" and immediately stopped moving. As a result, he didn't get hit by the lightning. However, Lan Yi knew that his "stop" wasn't a warning at all. It was just like a casual shout in a PvP match. The Han family's young master had obviously predicted his attack. He didn't advance but instead stopped. Thus, Lan Yi's calculated spell missed. Say it clearly before you leave. Han family young master's dodging caused Lan Yi to calm down. Lan Yi felt that his personality had really changed. If it was back in Moonlit Night City, he wouldn't have said something like, "Say it clearly." He wouldn't have said, "Stop," twice either. He would have just used a lightning spell and gotten straight to the point. After casting the spell and shouting, everyone finally realized what was going on here, and they all gathered around in a hubbub. "What's wrong?" Boundless Mang didn't think that it was a big deal because he knew that Han family young master wasn't a very likable guy. With the personalities of his brothers in Moonlit Night City, it was reasonable for them to make a move on him since they couldn't communicate with him. That guy already predicted that there would be a lot of people in the auction house at the last moment. If he didn't prepare in advance, there wouldn't be a spot for the auction. He purposely didn't mention it and even gathered us to gather money at that time. He wanted us to not get a spot and really sell the ideal staff. He wanted to make it real and lure Jian Nanyu into his trap. Lan Yi wasn't stupid. He even helped Han family young master to add some details. Everyone's expression changed. This method of Han family young master was obviously too unkind and lacking in loyalty. Even Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and the others, although they treated Gu Fei and the others as their own people, felt that Han family young master's method was too much. Curses rose from all directions, and it seemed like they were surrounding them. Han family young master turned his head and glanced at everyone. He continued to say disapprovingly, "The staff hasn't even been sold yet and you're already like this. If it really gets sold, what are you going to do?" He was still mocking them at a time like this. No one could stand it. The crowd strode forward as if they were going to harvest lives. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and the others didn't follow them, but they didn't show any intention of stopping them either. They stopped where they were with a difficult expression on their faces. "Can't you just say a few words less?" Han family young master added fuel to the fire, causing Brother Yu to cry. Especially when Han family young master had the aura of a big boss, and he himself was just a cannon fodder before he died. How could he endure this? "Everyone, don't panic." Suddenly, someone squeezed out of the crowd. Brother Yu saw that he was really a fucking savior. The moment this person walked out, everyone couldn't help but take 3 steps back. "Brother Qianli, we know that you're very powerful, but none of US brothers are afraid of death. If you want to stand up for us, then kill us all," Lan Yi said calmly. In front of a great enemy, this guy was actually surprisingly calm. "Not at all, not at all. I'm here to help you." As Gu Fei spoke, he walked towards the young master of the Han family and stood in front of him. It was as if he was talking to the young master of the Han family, but it was also as if he was saying to everyone present, "You have always been dishonest." "You," Han family young master only said one word, and Gu Fei's fist had already flown out. No matter how smart Han family young master was, or how fast his reflexes were when it came to punching and kicking, the difference between him and Gu Fei was like heaven and earth. This punch landed right on his cheek, and it was a solid hit. On the other hand, Gu Fei's strength wasn't enough for most people. However, the Han family's young master was a priest with the golden ratio. His body was also extremely weak. Gu Fei also had some equipment that increased strength, which was also the same as the Han family's. In addition, he also had some techniques. When this fist landed, the Han family's young master's face caved in. Then his head tilted, his neck twisted, his body tilted, and his legs tilted. In a single breath, the Han family's young master fell to the ground, causing dust to fly everywhere. The surroundings were silent. Although it was only a single punch, Gu Fei's punches were very difficult for normal players to replicate. They could only turn their opponent into a ball of white light, but at this moment, Gu Fei's punch made everyone feel that it was even more satisfying than chopping Han Family Young Master to death. "I've wanted to beat you up for a long time," Gu Fei said as he looked at Han Family Young Master. Han Family Young Master had already climbed up and touched the corner of his mouth. He still had a look of disapproval on his face. "You motherfucker. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.